Thank you for attending. For those watching online or Channel 21, please know that we can't attend to our phones during council meeting up here from the dais. However, if you do experience technical problems, you can email cityclerk@desmoineswa.gov. That's cityclerk@desmoineswa.gov. Let the record show that all council members are present. Thank you so much. This is for the, okay. Do we have any correspondence not previously received by council?
No, Mayor.
Okay, great, thank you. So now it's time for public comments. Later in the meeting, we'll be holding a public hearing regarding our public records fee schedule. So if you have comments with regard to that public hearing portion, for the record, please hold those comments until that time. For any other issues, we'll be opening the podium for public comment right now. We'll ask that you please keep your comments respectful, and please recognize that any person acting in a way that's disruptive to the meeting will be removed. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and city of residence when you come up. So first person signed up is Chuck Coleman.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council, City Manager, and staff. For the record, Chuck Coleman, Redondo Beach Drive South. I'm speaking to you tonight representing approximately 250 members of the Redondo Community Association. The association would like to thank the city and city staff for quickly responding to the damage and flooding caused by the recent king tides. The prompt response by Public Works and our police department was recognized and appreciated. The actions taken protected property and likely prevented injury to neighbors and commuters. We know events like this are inevitable in the future, and the association stands ready to assist the city in any way we can. In addition, we'd like to recognize and thank Public Works for effectively managing the construction of the new restrooms. We realize that the site is difficult and constrained. Also, construction this time of the year adds another level of challenge. Public Works staff and the general contractor have done an excellent job minimizing parking disruption, minimizing traffic congestion, and protecting the public, all while staying on schedule. The association looks forward to a new restroom completion and the removal of existing restrooms, which will mitigate environmental damage. On a personal note, I would like to thank the city for creating a very friendly, inviting entrance to our city hall. From an economic development perspective, a welcoming entrance is very positive first impression for potential business owners and residents. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was refreshing. Thank you, Chuck. Next up is Lee Tomlin. It's a hard act to follow.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lee Tomlin. I live in Redondo area. I'd also like to thank the Public Works Department for all that they did during the king tide. They were amazing, and I totally think that they deserve a raise. My second thought is I wanted to bring up the issue of the stairs that are maybe or maybe not being built. I'm not sure, but I know that we don't seem to have very much money in the budget, and I really feel that maybe this should be put aside until there's money in the budget to do something like this. I don't think it brings any money into the community, and so it doesn't make sense to me to continue with that project. Maybe they could put it on hold until there was something else to come up. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, Diane Tucker.
Well, I may sound redundant because I'm Diane Tucker and I live in Redondo as well. I do live right where a lot of the damage was done on the road, and I can tell you firsthand how quickly the roads were blocked off. The access to keep people away from harm, not only to property, but to cars and to neighbors. The Public Works were there immediately. And I know that the council, many of you, think of us in Redondo as possibly negative people. We are about activism and about changing things for the better, and not only in Redondo, but all of Des Moines. We are here to make a difference in Des Moines, and we want to acknowledge the good things that go on, but we want to also move the city forward in a positive direction, and we want to do what we can to assist you with that. And to that extent, we thank you to the Public Works, to our police department, to the city, and to the council members. We want to start 2025 in a positive direction, and working with us in the Redondo Community Association, we would like to offer to help in any way we can to move Des Moines in a really positive direction for 2025. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, Jim Lampriello.
Hey, Jim Lamparello from Des Moines. I've come here tonight to talk about a very important topic on the agenda, perhaps the most important topic. So important, I'm willing to miss the Notre Dame game that's going on right now. And I'm speaking, of course, about the flag of the city of Des Moines. For those unfamiliar, the flag, which is behind me, has a white background, a blue border, a city seal, and the words Des Moines, Washington, the Waterland City. In other words, it is an SOB, a seal on a bedsheet. The North American Vexillological Society, fancy word for the people that are experts in the realm of flags, publishes guidelines on good flag design. They're not necessarily rules that you have to follow, but they're guidelines, and that if you follow them, you'll generally come up with a good flag. So I think it's worth looking at our flag in the context of those principles. The first one, keep it simple. The flag should be so simple a child could draw it from memory. You all sitting up here, could you tell me which quadrant of the flag has an anchor in it? How about the sailboat? Right? Two, you should be distinctive. We've chosen the unique idea of a white flag with our city name on it, just like Federal Way, Kent, Burien, Newcastle, Everett, Puyallup, and Maple Valley. In other words, we're unique, just like everybody else. Finally, no lettering or seals. Never use writing of any kind. It's the symbol of our city, and if your symbol has to tell people that it is the symbol of your city, you're inherently failing. Imagine if the Stars and Stripes said United States of America on it. So, a good flag is a good symbol. It's an opportunity to show off who we are. When you're at City Hall, when you walk by the library, when you go to the ball fields, the schools, the marina, it's what unites us in the city that we love. And as a side note, city code actually prohibits citizens from flying the Des Moines flag or using any logos from the city. So that means we're missing out on a golden opportunity to spark enthusiasm about the town that we love. So personally, I'm glad that we're taking on the important task of city imagery. Once we get through that, we can get through to the insignificant problems, like the bond project that's $4 million over budget, or the park that's at risk of flooding, the easy stuff. And in the meantime, I can go back to watching Notre Dame lose to Penn State. Thanks.
They're not going to lose to Penn State. I was going to say, I hope you're right.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Well, we do have a few visitors who've signed in from some corporations that are interested in the subject matter. Were any of you attending on commenting tonight? Julian Thorne, did you want to comment tonight, or were you signing in because you're visiting as a... I had a comment. Come on up then. Oh, okay. So Beza and Garner? They're all part of the presentation. Okay, so not for public comment, right? Okay, go ahead, come on up. Okay.
Good evening, Honorable Buxton and City of Des Moines leadership. I'm Garner Duncan. I'm with Easy Fiber. We are on the consent agenda for item number 3. We're seeking a telecom franchise agreement with the city to bring fiber optic internet to Des Moines. Our goal is to, within 24 to 36 months, bring fiber internet to every single resident and business within Des Moines. We do have some packets here if you'd like to see them at the end. Otherwise, if you have any questions during the agenda, feel free to let us know. Myself and Eddie, who's my local VPGM, who's located here in Washington, are here in attendance.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. So, just make an offer. Is there anyone who came tonight expecting or desiring to speak, a public comment, but did not realize that you needed to sign up in order to do so? All right, thank you. Now back to you. Okay, so next up, it's time for our committee chair reports, and we will begin with a report out on the Transportation Committee from Chair Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. We had our first of the year Transportation Committee. We discussed the basic things like the Transportation Improvement Plan and the dates we'd review that, as well as the Capital Improvement Plan. And there was a couple of mentions of other related items that are specific to traffic and transportation. We did add some things. We wanted regular updates on 509, Sound Transit, Metro, particularly the last mile that we're trying to get to our light rail stations, and of course the ferry. And we also want to entertain, which we know we'll be talking about over this season. We didn't set dates for this either, but we want to talk about the traffic cameras and the potential new locations and possibly assess some of that as well. Just to add, because I happened to attend the PSRC Transportation Policy Board today, we did a priority ranking of the WashDOT projects that are regional. For those that don't know, the PSRC is Puget Sound Regional Council on Transportation. So it's a group that allocates a lot of the federal money and so forth and state importance to funding various like I-5 improvements or a different highway and so forth. It's a nice step for us to have a driver's seat in it because it gives us influence that we wouldn't have had otherwise. We talked about regional safety plans, especially the action plan. I don't know if you know this, but in the last 10 years, road fatalities have actually increased, even though vehicle safety has increased. It's, obviously there's various reasons, but particularly people paying lack of attention. There's a little bit of anger out there for various reasons. People drive like a madman a little bit. There's some lawlessness. Anyway, they're trying to figure out ways to reverse the trend. And then we also got our first peek at the biennial budget that the PSRC will have. So that's what I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, a report out from the Environment Committee from Chair Harris.
Thank you. First meeting of the year, and we went over our draft plan, but the main attraction was the Des Moines Estuary project, which apparently the full council will be looking at in a truncated portion. I would encourage all my colleagues to watch the video of the Environment Committee meeting, and the committee agreed that and asked the consultants to bring back a much more detailed set of renderings on the preferred options. I don't think it's overstating it to say that this is a huge strategic decision for the city that will impact the marina, the events, beach park, like the downtown, everything. And so I would strongly encourage everyone to really think about what this program will mean for the city 5-10 years down the road. Just everything down on the waterfront. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, I got a report out from Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, who attends the Public Issues Committee meeting. like to report out on that, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As many of you know, I participate in the Public Issues Committee for the Sound Cities Association, which is a group, 38 cities here in King County that talk in one voice. And you can imagine, there's a lot that goes into coming out to one voice. But we had our legislative agenda that adopted last night, and I wanted to share that, and it's a recommendation to the board of Sound Cities Association. And you'll hear that there are a lot of things that all the cities in King County have in common with us. They want to improve public safety, and so they're asking the legislature to increase the tools and resources, including local taxing authority, to address auto theft, property crime, and support officer recruitment and retention. They are asking it's a priority to promote economic vitality, to do things that helps communities in revitalization and workforce development programs. They're asking for an increased capacity for a crisis response to the behavioral health crisis that keeps people out of the jail system and into a system that can provide them with the care and diversion programs that they need. They're asking for sustainable funding for core local services. As many of you know, there's a 1% cap on the annual property tax increase, and they're asking that it be raised, just simply the cap be increased, so that cities have some flexibility in determining what it is that their residents want. They're asking the legislature to invest more in transportation infrastructure and mobility. They're asking that the legislature do more to promote housing affordability, in particular providing the cities access to choosing to have more resources, such as a local option REIT, that's the real estate excise tax, and that way the decision can be made at the local level whether that would help or hurt housing affordability. And then lastly, to mitigate and prepare for the impacts of climate change. If you were here earlier for the Environmental Committee, you heard some of those discussions that were going on, because climate change is coming, if it's not already here yet, and there are going to be a lot of implications that do that. And cities need to have some flexibility in the way that they address that, because everybody's a little bit different. So just wanted to share those are the legislative priorities of the Sound Cities Association, assuming that they get adopted by the board, and generally they adopt the recommendations of the Public Issues Committee. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Appreciate that report. Next up, we have the City Manager's report, and I'll hand the baton over to City Manager Catherine Caffrey.
Tonight we'll have two items. As Peter kind of heads up, I'm going to start with the most critical issue that maybe rivals Jim, and that is that the return of the senior dance around Valentine's Day. Apparently this was gone for several years, but February 14th, 6 to 8, bring your sweetheart. Apparently if you're a senior, which I'll let everybody defines that in their own heart, what that would include. But there'll be information in the city manager report about that and on our website. So their staff are excited to bring that event back. So that was the hardest news for today. Now the light stuff. Peter is here to talk about his work on the MARINA activation, and I asked him to really give us an overview on really the various things he's working on, progress, and really what are some kind of goals we can have for things we can achieve in the next few months. Peter?
Thank you, Catherine, and Mayor and City Council members. I'm happy to be here to give you my update, and I will say that my barber says that I am a senior, and so that means I only pay $19 for my haircuts now, so that makes me
Nice.
So I don't have the clicker. I don't know if Taro's going to. So I think you all know who I am, so I will not give you a repeat of my bio, but I will tell you a little bit about kind of recap. Tara, is this on? So next slide, please. So we'll start with a recap of the Foot Ferry pilot project that we did in the summer of 2022. We had, the boat ran for 2 months. It was a Chilkat Express, 65 passengers, ran between Seattle and the Des Moines Marina. We had 15,000 unique visitors in 2 months. Only one-way tickets were sold, so these were all individual tickets that were purchased. We know from the data collected, which is on the website and has been distributed to council, that many passengers chose to go up on the boat and come back with another method of transportation, or come down from Seattle on the boat and go back up. Most of them took Sound Transit that went up that didn't take the boat. The utilization of the boat was almost 100%. It was full and had standby passengers pretty much every trip, so it was very well used. We were limited by the size of the vessel. We could only carry 60 passengers, and we had route constraints around the crewing. We only had one crew for a 40-hour work week. And so those placed limitations on the number of people that used the boat, that if we had a bigger boat and more frequent service, would have had access to the service. We collected some data from the passengers when they rode the boat, which I've outlined here, some of the highlights. Again, this data is all on the public, on the Des Moines website, and has been shared with you individually, I think. 70% would like to see ferry service, permanent ferry service year-round to Des Moines, and that's really the crux of the continuing work that I'm doing. 42% rode the boat more than once. That was very interesting. We saw more people using the boat at the end of the service than we did at the beginning of the service, which tells us that people rode the boat, they liked it, they told their friends, their family who came and rode the boat, and then they came back and rode it themselves. Also interesting was that 31% of the passengers originated in Des Moines, 13% were from the surrounding communities, which makes sense, but 51% of the passengers that rode the boat came from outside of the communities outlined above that, which we were gratified to see, which means it's a regional asset, not just a value to Des Moines. The net operating cost of the project, including the costs of the vessel offset by the fare box recovery, was $296,000. And we used that ferry pilot to generate $1,285,000 in grant revenues that the city has been awarded in the years since that pilot project. These are direct grant revenues that were not, did not include any matches from the city. No matches from the city were required of any of the grants that we won. Next slide, please, Tara. So Catherine asked me to put this map up so you could see where our passengers came from. The contrast isn't very good. You can see, as we would have thought, that most of the passengers were from Des Moines, but then they're pretty much spread from around the region, which was gratifying to see. Okay, so that's where we were. Next slide. I thought it would be helpful to generally review what I've been hired by the city to do, my scope of work. I won't go through this. I understand it's been all disseminated to you previously, but in essence, I was hired to help increase activation of the marina generally, the fast ferry being one of the projects in which I was involved, and to enhance quality of life of the city by activating the marina, adding amenities to Des Moines such that we all benefit from those added amenities that maximize the value of the marina as a public asset. I've also been tasked with supporting grant applications to fund marina-related projects around marine transit and infrastructure. Next slide. Specifically, this is what my mandate is according to the contract. Pursue funding partners for regular foot ferry service has been my primary focus at the city's direction. I've also been tasked with soliciting and coordinating grant funds to maximize the value of the marina to the public, and to continue to pursue funding and partnerships to enhance the vitality of the marina generally and the downtown core. Next slide, please. So this is what I have been asked to do for 2025. Basically, help raise money, develop funding partnerships, again, around the establishment of permanent passenger ferry service between Des Moines and Seattle and points south and east. I've been tasked with identifying partners. The city of Des Moines does not want to own and operate a ferry. We want somebody else to do it for us, and we want them to do it for us to the benefit of our residents at no cost to our residents. And so in part, that is to solicit a partner to operate the boat, and it's also incumbent upon me to demonstrate to those partners why they would want to call it Des Moines and why we are worthy of permanent fast ferry service. We've won a substantial number of grants. Those grants were awarded in 2024. The final paperwork has gone through on all of them in the fourth quarter, and now they have to be administered, and part of my work in 2025 will be to administer those grants. Next slide. So these are kind of the specifics on what we have, what we've won in 2024, and a little bit more. And again, there'll be time for questions, I hope, at the end, so that I can answer some of these. So I'll just go through them briefly, because you're at least familiar with them in spirit. Economic analysis, that contract is for $160,000. It's been awarded to Diedrich RPM, who some of you will remember as the contractor that completed the demand study that justified the pilot project. They have a particular expertise in studies related to marine transit. They're working in Florida, California. The principal actually had a ferry that she operated in Florida and in Minnesota, so she's well versed in the economics and demography around marine transit specifically. So that project, we've just presented their proposal to the city yesterday, I think, their final proposal. And once that's signed, it'll be 6 months until completion. So we expect that to be completed around the 25th of, or around July of 2025. The big project is the Marina Electrification Project. And this is a grant that was awarded to, it was technically awarded to we applied for it with Clean and Prosperous Washington, a nonprofit that specializes in electrification projects. And we chose to partner with them because they were very successful in winning grants. They won this one. The grant specifies that the electrification project will be at the Des Moines Marina. This is yet to be scheduled. We have just been made aware, I've just been made aware this morning that Clean and Prosperous has assigned a project manager to the grant. He contacted me today, and we spoke briefly about moving forward. I don't have instruction from the city on how exactly we're going to do that, but we're all ready to go now. So that's to be scheduled. Alongside that electrification grant is a grant. Well, it's not a grant. It was in the governor's budget. Our lobbyist, Anthony Hempstead, was behind this, winning this. Governor Inslee's last budget, he specified $100,000 to the city of Des Moines to make sure that the electrification project works with electric fast ferries as they are introduced. Our whole goal is to make the Des Moines Marina an attractive place for this new generation of electric fast ferries to call. We are much further along than any other city or community in Puget Sound on becoming electrified. So we hope to be the first marina that has the ability to accept and charge electric fast ferries. And then the last grant that I have up on this list is not one that we applied for, but it's one that was applied independent from us, although in coordination with us because they knew of our overall desire to electrify. This company is called ZEV Co-op, and once I'm completed with my presentation, then I'll introduce Julian Thorne, who's with ZEV, and they'll tell you a little bit about the project. This car share is operational and extant at the Des Moines Marina. It's a charging station and a car behind the harbor master's office. You'll hear much more about it from Julian, so I'll leave that there. Next slide, please. So what's next? We have, what we want to do now is, first of all, make sure that these projects are successfully completed. We've won the grant money for it, and now we have to administer them and make sure that they are successfully completed. We want to pursue legislative funding in this session. Our operation partners ensure that they have the funding necessary to support permanent ferry service to Des Moines. And our lead, there are two agencies that could conceivably provide this service, King County and Kitsap Transit, King County Metro and Kitsap Transit. Currently, we are most aligned with King County, and this is in complete transparency with Kitsap County. All three partners recognize that King County is best suited to serve Des Moines with permanent ferry service. As I like to say, all of us who are residents of King County are paying for ferry service, we're just not getting it yet. So my job is to ensure that we get King County Marine Division to expand to the Des Moines Marina as quickly as possible. And then lastly, we want to make sure that our partners are adequately funded. As I said before, we don't want to operate ferry service. We want to have our partners, namely King County, operate the ferry service. We want to do what we can to help them make the argument with the legislature to be funded for that. So we're working with the variety of partners, including Vashon Island, Pierce County, King County, and others who are interested in expanding marine transit around Puget Sound. Des Moines is best suited to be the first. Most people recognize that, and so we want to support all those efforts to kind of focus everything on Des Moines. And I skipped over a couple things there, but you have them in your handouts. But in the interest of time, I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time for questions, because I suspect that there may be some. So with that, I'll leave it, and then I'll introduce Zeb after that.
All right, do we have any questions for Peter? I'll go with Councilmember Oxiger and then Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yes, thank you. I'm a little bit confused about some of the figures that are shown on the recap of the foot ferry pilot. It states that there were 15,000 unique visitors, but 42%, you also state that 42% rode the ferry more than once. So when you say 15,000 unique visitors, are you saying there were 15,000 trips or unique visitors? Because go ahead.
A unique visitor is somebody who purchases a ticket, takes that ticket, gets on the boat, and moves from point A to point B. So that's one unique visit. When they get to that location, if they then buy another ticket, turn around and come back on the boat, that's a second unique visit. If 3 days later they buy a third ticket, that's a third unique visit.
Okay, this is a unique interpretation of coming from the publishing business.
As do I, you know that.
That's not the way you calculate unique visitors.
Well, I would disagree.
It may be hits, but it's not a unique visitor.
Well, I disagree with your interpretation of that, but that's the industry standard. When we talk about unique visitors and transportation, we talk about the individual that purchases the ticket and takes a unique visit, a unique visit. You can, Councilmember Ossinger, you can determine whatever you want with it, but that's how we counted it, and I think since it's a standard, that's the term we use.
Okay, yeah, that's, it doesn't match with the terms that I'm used to, so I'll say that. But there also was a study, there also was a question posed to people as to what they were willing to pay. And they felt that the cost, I believe it was $10 each way.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but it was very inexpensive.
Very inexpensive, but it wasn't, and it did not meet costs.
Correct.
So, and when the question was asked, if we went to I believe it was, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it went to a substantially higher price in order to pay for itself. The 70% who would like to see the permanent year-round service dropped significantly. So I think that the figures are, to me, rather weighted towards, more positive than fact that they might in fact really be. And I think that's concerning as we go down and we look throughout. I mean, when you say 15,000 unique visitors, when you're doing an economic impact study, I mean, are we talking about a number of individual bodies or just the total number of trips? It does make a difference. And the study was done during the summer months, and the fact that we have 51% of the the passengers originated from Washington State outside of the area. Do we have any idea if those were people that were using it for commuting purposes, or if they were using it strictly for recreational purposes?
We don't, and that's what this economic analysis will tell us. We had a limited budget, so we could only do what we could do in the pilot. But because of that pilot and because of the success of the pilot, then we were awarded grant funding to go deeper into these kind of questions and answer them with subsequent studies, which have been funded.
So, but short of having another demonstration project like we had, how are you going to determine from those, which ones of those, whether they were recreational users or whether they were commuters?
Well, it would be, I don't anticipate us doing another demonstration project. King County has plans to do demonstration projects, but the studies that we do will be justification for King County to do a demonstration project, similar to the demand study that we did in 2020, 2021, the results of which justified our pilot, which verified that modeling, if you will. So the new economic analysis, the community engagement and secondary transportation study, the results of that can be used to justify King County embarking upon first a pilot project and then permanent service.
Okay, when does King County anticipate doing this their demonstration project?
Well, we don't have a date for it. We'll have to see what the data tells us from the economic analysis.
Is it funded already?
The funding for future ferry routes to Des Moines is not currently funded.
Oh, but the demonstration project I'm talking about.
No.
Routes may not.
No. What we do have funded and what will happen is King County is going to run a boat, and I neglected to mention that even though it's on my bullet points there. King County is planning to do a demonstration run with one of their boats that's currently running to West Seattle. And they'll run it from Seattle to Des Moines and back to test operationally what they might need to do to make sure that their boats will run here. And that we're going to do that before the end of February. That's planned to do.
This February.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that will show what, that it's feasible to do it? Or
Yep,
that,
yep.
Or that people would take the boat?
Well, it will show that it's feasible to do it. Whether it's not, it's feasible to do it. We think it is. And it's a way to demonstrate, what could be. It's a goodwill gesture that King County Metro is providing to show the community and legislators that this is what we can do, King County and the city of Des Moines together.
Okay. The other thing is I rode the boat. It was a nice ride. It's always fun to be out on the water. I took the boat, and the boat was full going up to Seattle, but there was only half the number of people coming back. I asked the two young men that were piloting the boat if that was the norm, and they said, yeah, it is, and what it would be is the trip up in the morning would be full, coming back during the morning hours it would be half full, and then that reverse flipped in the afternoon, which to me indicated that for every 2 people that were going to Seattle, only 1 was coming back this direction. So if people are taking the boat to go up and enjoy the Seattle waterfront, that seems like we're sending $2 out for every $1 that comes back, if you want to put it in a monetary aspect. So I have trouble understanding how that is beneficial economically.
Well, the way it's beneficial to the downtown retail core is that we're taking 15,000 people that would not normally transit the retail core, that are transiting it either to go to the ferry or coming back from the ferry. And those people are going through the retail core. It's up to the businesses, of course, and activities that we might pursue to ensure that those people that are transiting the core stay there and spend money. But 15,000 transits happened that wouldn't normally happen because there was a ferry to either take or come home from.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, thank you for a good presentation. And I understand that a lot of this questioning about the tickets to and from, unique tickets or not, doesn't matter if King County Metro is the one that's footing the bill and operating the boat, which is what the current plan is, correct?
Correct.
So it's essentially free to Des Moines to get people to come down here and to go, as you say, transit the corridor. The one place that it could have some impact on the Des Moines taxpayers is at the marina, where you may have some wear and tear and actually setting it up and running the on and off of the boat. Has that been discussed, and if so, what does that look like, and how would that impact the people in Des Moines? Because that's the only place I see that the voters who live in Des Moines could end up with some costs.
Wear and tear on the marina has not been a point of discussion to this point. I assume if we get, when we get further along and that becomes relevant, then yeah, I think that's certainly valid of consideration.
And if there's really no or very, very limited cost to the Des Moines voters, is there any reason why anybody in Des Moines would be opposed to this that you can think of? I mean, we're paying for the ferry already, we're just not getting it, right?
That's what I think, yeah, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. When you say 100% utilization, please define utilization.
Okay. Well, I said near 100% utilization. I think our actual the utilization was on average,
Oh, I apologize, almost 100%.
was about 70%, which is very, very good. You know, as Councilmember Oshiger pointed out, you know, 100% up, 50% back, that's 75%. So that's about what happened. We had, in the middle of the day, there were very few people that wanted to go up to Seattle, turn around and come back, although there were some, just as there were very few people who wanted to leave from Seattle, come down, turn around and go back. So the morning routes and the afternoon routes were oversubscribed, and the utilization was less in the middle of the day. We would have liked to have gone longer, started earlier and gone later, but again, we were working with constraints, budget constraints, and so we did what we had the money to do.
No, I hear you. I'm just, my partner and I used to, you know, the difference between 100, I would get yelled at for that kind of delta. My partner in sales would be like, hey, man, you know, yeah, sales. Where's Artemis? Are they still, any updates on what's going on with that?
Artemis, as you remember, is the electric fast ferry manufacturer from Northern Ireland. They have a pilot project in Northern Ireland that's running now. They've opened an office, a sales office in Brooklyn. David Tyler, who I think made a presentation, didn't he? Did he make a presentation?
He came to visit.
Okay, yeah, he came to visit. So he's their American representative, and he's in Brooklyn, and he's
Okay,
trying to sell boats.
and I'm sorry, because we got a long meeting and I want to be respectful, but what I meant specifically is that they were laying the keel on the 72 or 150. I know that they have the pilot boat in service. They've been toddling around. My cousin takes photos of it. How far are they from having something in the water they were supposed to be having sea trials at some point, and I'm just saying, did that happen? And that's all, or if there's a schedule.
I'm not sure how far along they are in Ireland. They've got a contract for 4 boats to build in the United States that
The big one, the one that would, the electric, the 150
yeah.
thing. Okay, and finally, so you're saying that King County is going to bring one of the existing water taxis?
Yes.
The ones that currently transit, West Seattle and Vashon and
Yes.
so forth. Okay, so can you define feasibility? I'm just an ignorant sailor, but I'm just like, the boat goes in the water, you start the diesel, and you head south. I mean, I'm not being facetious.
No, I get it.
Is there any mechanical, is there something novel about simply, heading over here versus?
Well, that's part of the feasibility. What they're testing is some other parts of feasibility. Will it fit in the dock that you want to call? Can you turn around once you get here and go back? Can you do it in a timely manner? Administratively, how many people do you need to get the passengers on and off the boat?
But which boat, but no, the water taxi that transits to West Seattle is like a couple hundred, I mean, it's a big thing.
150 passengers.
Okay, but so that's an equivalent size to what we would be considering with the electric
Well,
boat?
I'm
just saying, is it apples to apples
ultimately,
physically?
yes.
Okay,
But the idea is that they would use Des Moines to test other technologies. So they would use Des Moines to run a smaller boat, similar to the one that we ran,
Chilcat,
the Chilcat,
okay.
to test the administrative feasibility, to test the technological feasibility of, say, an electric boat, which is why we're electrifying. So they would test it on this route because we don't have an established demand yet. So if something goes wrong and the boat's out of service for a period of time, a man or woman's not going to miss their work or their doctor's appointment.
Okay, no, I get it, but this is still like a Chilcat, or this is a diesel-powered craft that will be doing the test thing in February.
This one, yes, yeah, in February. The first boat will be, yep.
I'm missing something, but I'm not going to beat on it anymore. I will just, every stat on this page, thank you for your time, sir.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Peter, and hand it back to you.
I believe Peter's going to invite up Zev
Yes.
to talk about the car sharing program.
Yep, I'd like to invite Julian Thorne and Beza. Beza's going to hand out a flyer to each of the council members. And this is not my project. I came in late just to make sure that we were able to coordinate it so you guys could get the charging station at the marina. It's there, it's operational. Anybody can sign up and use it, and Julian's going to tell us a little bit about Zev and the program.
Thank you, Peter, and good evening, council members and mayor. I'm Beza Daniel, the communication manager at Zev Co-op, and as Peter says, I'm going to pass these out while Julian's presenting. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the opportunity and your time, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and City Council members. Appreciate that. My name is Julian Thorne. I am the Customer Experience Manager and the Outreach Manager for Zev Co-op, also board member as well. And I want to talk to you about what is currently at the marina, our Zev Co-op. And what is Zev? ZEV Co-op is Zero Emissions Vehicles Cooperative. And we are a non-profit community car share, and we utilize all electric vehicles, cars, sedans, trucks, and vans that are in our fleet. Can you please go to the next slide? Thank you so much. And what are we about? So we are a transportation equity focused nonprofit. We are established here in the Pacific Northwest, Washington and Oregon, but we're also, you can also check us out anywhere throughout the region, as far as south, even as California right now. Yeah. We have an emphasis on providing access to underserved, low-income, and rural communities. And you might kind of think to yourself, does Des Moines qualify for any of those categories? Well, underserved. There is no car share that I can think of that is here in the area, right? So yes, we are looking to expand that and put it here. And so we are providing communities the opportunity to initiate sustainability and clean transportation programs in the neighborhood, and also empower with sharing the information about EVs and their impact on the environment. And next slide, please. And so how does this whole thing work? Sort of like what Peter said, we're partnering with you all. We partner with the community and community-focused non-profit groups also in order to sit the actual site in your community. We position our cars in areas that are easily accessible, and they are usually in places that are primarily close to some type of public transportation. We are also want to be affordable and reasonable. We have rental fees right now that are lower than the market rate of a rental car company. We want to be able to be flexible and listen to the needs of the community. And also, we want to be able to make it easy to access the vehicles. And so we have these events that we kind of tutor and teach folks how all of this works. Next slide, please. And so this program is a tech-enabled program. So you're using your phone to be able to control open the doors to the vehicles and unlock the vehicles. And then the vehicle, you'll be able to reserve it right there through your phone. The vehicle is insured, so you don't have to worry about insurance when you're using the vehicle. We provide roadside support. We provide all the maintenance for the vehicle and also for the the charger as well. And the actual charger itself is on us. We provide the charging for that vehicle at that particular station, and it's station-based. So how the car shares work is sort of like, I don't know if you're familiar with like Lime scooter. You can just kind of pick it up anywhere. This is a little bit different. It's a station-based, so you actually have to bring the vehicle back to the station that you got it from. You can reserve the vehicle in advance as well, up to 7 days in advance if you're a subscriber. And then also, again, like I said, we have various vehicle types: sedans, pickup trucks, and ADA vans. So on our advisory council, you can see a lot of those familiar logos there. That comprises of our advisory board, from Tacoma Power to Seattle City Light, and all these various companies that we work with. This is a sort of a mapping on how we are doing right now. And we just launched about a year and a half ago or so, and currently we have 12 sites, 12 vehicles right now. And you can see second to last there, Des Moines is right there sitting at the marina. I encourage all of you to go to your phones and search in your Play Store or your App Store for ZEV Co-op and go ahead and try us out and see how it works. And right now, we're steadily growing. Next. And so, just to sum it up, we are our mobility company, and we're looking to provide transportation freedom for all. We are encouraging the reduced vehicle usage among a broader population. We would like to get the vehicles off the road, so this way if you share vehicles, that allows others to be able to not have to use so many vehicles. Facilitate the shift towards electric vehicles, fostering equitable access. Not a lot of people are able to afford an electric vehicle right now, so this gives folks the ability to be able to get in one and go. Address the community needs promptly and effectively, expand our services across the Pacific Northwest region, and make a positive difference in lives throughout our initiatives. I'd like to thank you so much for listening to us and have an absolutely wonderful, any questions? I'm sorry.
Questions? Councilmember Mahoney?
Yeah, I have a couple. I assume that you talked about people with low income can get a reduced rate.
Uh-huh.
Can you talk a little bit about the process?
Sure.
Obviously, they'd probably bring on the app and they have to, like a credit report or something like where they qualify? Is that what works?
Yeah, sort of like that. So right now, our stipulations are if someone is on some type of public aid type program, then they just call us and they, provide that particular type of information, and we'll go ahead and put them in the affordable income community, and we'll be able to get them the lower rates. Yeah.
What about seniors? A lot of those are income challenged, but
Right.
necessarily wouldn't be on other than Social Security.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously you said rates as low as $5 an hour, $40 a day, but what would typically be the average cost for a user?
For average costs would be we will probably, average cost is sort of around market rate, $16 an hour, about $128 a day. That's the average cost for a sedan, and the average cost sort of, for car share, rental cars, kind of around that area. However, we are a co-op, so we have, if, one becomes a member of the co-op, you can actually get a benefit of being able to have lower rates in the company. And so, if you pay a certain fee, one-time fee, then you'll be able to cut that particular, price in half, basically. Yeah.
What's that cost?
So that's like $8 an hour, $64 a day for a
Yeah,
sedan.
but what's the,
That co-op membership fee, so an individual member would pay $500 one-time fee.
okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
sure.
Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you so much. I guess I ask everybody, how did you happen to decide on Des Moines and specifically siting at the Marina? I mean, how do you decide on locations?
Right. Well, that's a good question. So, for the most part, it's sort of word of mouth, but also a little bit of research. Some in other areas, we actually have been sought after for the work that we've already done from different municipalities, and they have already done studies about, where they would like to have a car share, and so we kind of partner with them that way. But for, we have also done our own research, in other areas, and for the most part, we are working with the people that see the need. Currently, we have we're a small group of people, probably about you can count them on two hands as far as how many we have on our staff, and so we have been working tirelessly to be able to put these 12 sites up. And for again, like I said, for the most part, it has been just sort of a word of mouth, but just, reaching out and talking to different people that we know at different organizations that see the need for car share in their areas.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I do have a few questions. So, how many cars do you have down at the Marina?
We just have the one car.
Just have one car?
So far, yes.
And one charging station?
That's correct.
And was that on you guys to put, was that on Zev to install that okay, so there was no cost to the city for any of that? Okay.
That's correct.
And then what are your aspirations for continued service down there? Just the one car? Are you looking for more cars down there?
Well, we would definitely like to be able to scale, and we would like to actually have every site have at least 2 cars. We find that the customer experience is not as great when you only have one car and someone else is looking for a car, and then that's kind of defeats the purpose of having a program. So at some point, we definitely would like to have 2 per station, more if the need be.
Very good. I understand the need. I think the next couple questions are for staff maybe. So do you pay for a business license? Is there a business license that's paid for the city? Okay. Yeah. And then B&O taxes and that kind of stuff. So there's revenue that's brought in to the city by having your business here then?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great service to a lot of people. When I was in high school, my best buddy, his mother had recently divorced his dad, and they'd moved out to California. They had a little apartment, and they had no car in San Diego, which is a pretty tough place to be without a car. And she would faithfully, once a week, she'd rent a car to do the weekly grocery shopping trip.
Yeah.
This is going to solve that need for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah.
The location in the Marina, nobody's going to confuse that with a low-income area of town.
Right.
And so I think that you will find that in Des Moines we have other areas that are underserved and could really use the availability of a car co-op. And so I would encourage you to look around. In particular, the light rail station is going to have a very large development of what they call transit-oriented development. But those people will need a car to go to Costco or to go shopping. You know, they won't be able to jump the light rail and do that. And so I think there's a huge need for your service as you grow and expand. And so I really would encourage you to try to find other locations and share it as things get established here. So thank you. I think this is a great service.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yeah, it has many different use cases as well. So, you know, being at the marina, you know, it's not, again, just for low income. It's for anybody who would like to use it. So if you have, you know, some visitors that come in off of the ferry that you're going to have, right? You know, they'll be able to hop in the car and peruse around town, right? So, yeah, totally. But if someone wants to use it to go doctor's appointments or something like that, it's for that as well. Yeah. Appreciate it.
I was going to ask Scott Wilkins, our harbor master, to come up. I think he had a little bit of context he wanted to provide.
Thank you, City Manager, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. Scott Wilkins at the Harbor. Quite a ways back, Greg Drunkert, who's kind of spearheaded this program, got in touch with me and asked me about this. And for me, it was a no cost, so everything was paid for by them. The installation, the car, everything as it was stated. For us, it's pennies a month to have it sitting there charged because it's not really using much there. I felt it was really awesome for us to have it there at the marina. For us, really, I want boaters to come in, yacht clubs to come in, other people to come in that might need to pick up somebody from the airport, take someone to the airport, go shopping, go to dinner. They come by boat. So I was looking at it from that side because that's what I do. So that's kind of the how I felt it would be really important in the marina itself. And so that's how I like it. So I appreciate it. And Peter just told me that we're having a ribbon cutting on
January 22nd.
Thank you.
Around 10?
Yeah, January 22nd, so please come visit. But that's all I had. Thank you. Yep.
Keep going.
If I may.
Yes, Councilmember Harris.
So, will the city be receiving some, either, you know, at least internally, some sort of usage reports? Because I would just be interested to see, okay, yeah, how that's all playing out.
If the city wants, we can provide those anytime, you know, needed. Yeah, definitely. The reason I'm here currently is because there's not really much usage because no one knows about it. So I'm trying to get the awareness out. So, yeah.
Right, well, and just, like I said, and I don't want to, you know, anything that's in any way confidential, but it's a fascinating thing to see who is actually using it, and, you know, so just something we could get some kind of heat mappy thing would be,
Yeah, most definitely.
I would be interested in.
I'll be happy to coordinate with him and follow up on that.
Sounds good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I did have a couple questions. Yeah. Got to get your steps in somehow
No
right
worries.
today. So is there a limitation on time? If somebody decides to get their app, they go down there, whatever, they get off their boat, how long can they use this car?
Yes, it's hourly or daily. You can actually purchase up to 7 days.
Oh, wow. So somebody could take it, head up to Vancouver, stay, but they would just have to be staying somewhere where they could charge it.
That's
Okay,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So per day, it's not per mile. And you access it through an app that you download in your phone, just go to your app store like that?
Let's backtrack. It is after a certain amount of miles, then it is per mile. So it's
Okay.
150 miles is included in your reservation. 150 miles per day is included in your reservation. After that, then you're charged like 45 cents per mile.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. And then in regard to disseminating information out into the community, so just wanted to reiterate a little bit louder that there is going to be a ribbon cutting, like a kind of a grand opening for this car down at the Marina on January 22nd. At what time?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. So we're going to celebrate the fact that our community has this, and we'll be putting it out on social media. You've got it with a, what, like a QR code or something if somebody wants to click and find out more about you on the digital media?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You can check our website.
Okay.
And our QR codes will provide. But yes, we definitely have it all at zev.coop.
Okay. Welcome to the community. I think it's a fabulous gift, and I'm hoping it gets used, and I'm looking forward to these reports to see how it works out. Thank you.
We're glad to be here. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all.
And Mayor Buxton, Council,
Yes, sir.
one other way is you're running an ad campaign in City Parks Magazine, which generates revenue and promotes the service.
Yeah, talk to him if you want to add in our magazine, so there you go. Thank you so much, appreciate it. Okay, any more on the city manager's report? Okay, thank you so much. So now we are going to the consent agenda that we have tonight on our consent calendar. So could the clerk please read our consent agenda?
Item 1, approval of vouchers. Item 2, approval of minutes. Item 3, Human Trafficking Awareness Day Proclamation. Item 4, Korean American Day Proclamation. Item 5, Co-Responder Grant Award. Item 6, Draft Resolution Number 24-108 in support of Redondo Boat Ramp Grant Application. And that concludes the consent agenda, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Nutting.
I move to approve the consent calendar as read.
Second? Second from Councilmember Mahoney. Is there an item that any council member wishes to pull? Okay, I would like to pull item number 6, please. Any others? All right. So all in favor of passing the consent calendar minus number 6 as read, raise your right hand. 7-0, unanimously. Thank you. So I'd like to turn item number 6 over to the city manager.
Yeah, I'd asked for this item to be pulled. I'd gotten a question yesterday about, gosh, didn't you guys just put things in at this pier? Is this grant ripping out things that were done just last year? And that is not the case. So I've asked Scott Wilkins to come on up and give a little bit of explanation on that. He loves it. He's so excited when I say he has to come up.
It's my favorite. Anyway, thank you, City Manager, Mayor, and Council. Yes, 2019, we put in a grant through RCO Recreation Conservation Office to build new docks down at Redondo on the new boarding floats for the south side. So we did that. Finally, with COVID and everything else, we had them installed last year. The north side docks wore out, dangerous. So for safety reasons, we didn't put them in. And so now we're going out for another grant. The first float on the north side is still 1980 King County Redondo floats. So we'll be removing that one, remove the wedge, move the wedge over 3 feet, and put in the north, and hopefully get the north string floats rebuilt and installed. So hopefully soon we'll have 2 brand new float strings, 3 feet wider, to have a kind of a 2-lane launching ramp, and that's what we're hoping for. But we're not destroying anything that we've done. We're rebuilding the part that no longer works.
Any questions? Good job. Oh, we do? Oh, thank you.
No, I have the motion.
Oh, he's waiting. So any questions? Okay. Whew, good. Okay, yeah. So do we have a motion? You have it right there. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I move to enact draft ordinance resolution 24-108, naming the city manager as the designated representative/agent for the city in order to apply for the grant funding for the Redondo Boat Launch Improvement Project.
Do I have a second? Deputy Mayor Steinmetz for the second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Thank you. Good. So now we have a couple of proclamations that were on this agenda, and I will read those. This one is in regard to Korean American Day. Whereas Korean American Day is celebrated worldwide on January 13th to commemorate the first Korean immigrants to the United States in 1903. And whereas On January 13th, 1903, the first Korean immigrants arrived in the United States. These first immigrants and their descendants faced and overcame difficult conditions and created a vibrant and successful community that has fought for our nation's freedom and democratic way of life and has been characterized by a strong and diligent work ethic, a value for education, and an entrepreneurial spirit. And whereas it's fitting that we celebrate and honor Korean immigration to the United States, the state of Washington, and the city of Des Moines, and recognize the Korean American community's invaluable contributions to our rich cultural diversity, economic strength, and proud heritage. And whereas achievements and contribution of Korean Americans can be seen throughout the nation and Washington state in business, academia, arts, science, engineering, medicine, literature, journalism, government, the military, and numerous other areas. And whereas we come together as a community in a spirit of unity to celebrate the first pioneers that paved the way for the vibrant Korean American community that thrives today and the invaluable contributions that enrich our city. Now therefore, the Des Moines City Council hereby proclaims January 13th to be Korean American Day, signed this 9th day of January, 2025. And then the next one is in regard to human trafficking. Whereas human trafficking occurs when someone uses force, fraud, or coercion to cause another person to engage in forced labor, involuntary servitude, or a commercial sex act. And whereas human trafficking is second only to narcotics trafficking in international crime. And whereas the International Labor Organization estimates that there are upwards of 20 million victims of modern-day slavery worldwide, with children making up 27% of the victims. And whereas the victims of human trafficking may be young, old, male, female, U.S. citizens, or foreign nationals. And whereas aggressively identifying and prosecuting the buyers and sellers of trafficking victims is an effective strategy to end the commission of human trafficking. And whereas assisting victims of human trafficking requires a coordinate community response among community groups, social services, schools, and law enforcement. And whereas Washington State recognizes a National Day of Human Trafficking Awareness, which is designated annually as January 11th. Now therefore, the Des Moines City Council hereby proclaims January 11th to be Human Trafficking Awareness Day in the city of Des Moines, and reaffirms the city of Des Moines' zero-tolerance policy for human trafficking, and encourages all to raise awareness about human trafficking and work collaboratively with law enforcement agencies and community organizations to combat this terrible crime. Signed this 9th day of January, 2025. There we go. And I just want to take a little bit of liberty to here say we weren't able to coordinate a visit from, we do have a local organization that provides a bridge and transition services for people coming out of trafficking right here locally, and our city supports them. It's called the Genesis Project. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about them, super easy to find online, the Genesis Project. And a great organization that's helped hundreds of women and children come out of this life. So, all right, next up we have a public hearing. So the purpose of this public hearing is to consider draft ordinance 24-037, amending the city's public records fee schedule. I'll now open the public hearing, and we'll begin with a staff presentation by Tara Vaughn.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council. Thank you for allowing me to present on this draft ordinance. I'm going to try to be very brief. I know it's a very full agenda. So the purpose of this ordinance and the proposed changes are to allow the city to come as close as possible to recouping the costs associated with responding to public records requests. This is allowed specifically by the Public Records Act. These are the relevant statutes. Section 120 allows cities to charge fees that will reimburse them for the actual costs of providing public records. It does require cities to elucidate how they calculated those fees in something that's called a statement of factors and manners used. Where cities opt not to calculate the actual costs, they need to declare why that would be unduly burdensome to do so, and in which case cities may opt to use the statutory fee amounts. Subsection 070 lists everything that cities can include when calculating the actual costs. And importantly to us, we may include staff salaries and benefits when they directly relate to time spent copying public records and providing those records. It does not include time spent searching for the records or locating them, however. This is our current fee schedule. Basically what you'll see is 15 cents per page for printing photocopies, 10 cents per page for scanning copies. These are the statutory amounts, but it doesn't take into account the technological changes and the way that public records are retained and provided to the requester. So for example, this doesn't take into account the time spent uploading or downloading very large files. It doesn't take into account the time spent redacting body-worn camera footage, which can take quite a long time, depending on the size of the file. This last year, staff spent around 1,400 hours responding to public records requests, but we only recouped a little under $2,600. We do not believe that's coming close to the actual costs of providing these records. So, these are the proposed changes. We recommend charging the per minute rate for scanning records into electronic format, uploading them to electronic delivery, mailing them, which would also include the cost of packaging and postage, and redacting body-worn camera video. If there is a request for plotter paper or some non-standardized paper or something that would require technical expertise, that would be charged at the actual vendor's rate. And there were a few costs that were unduly burdensome to calculate, and we would recommend the statutory fees for those. So that's photocopies on standard size paper, files attached to email for delivery, and gigabytes per attachment. So this is how the permanent rate was calculated. We averaged the staff's wages plus benefits of the staff that handles public records requests, and then we divided that by the number of work minutes in a year, which if you didn't know, like I didn't, is 124,800. That left us with $1.02 per minute for general records requests, and then 96 per minute for body-worn camera redaction. And so this just kind of very briefly explains why those other costs were unduly burdensome, mainly because we have a flat rate for leasing printers and copiers every year, and included in that flat rate is an as-needed ink and toner replacement, and that varies every year. So trying to determine of that flat rate how much is just ink and toner would be nearly impossible, as would calculating the cost of a single sheet of paper for the city every year, as the amount of paper used and the quality of the paper varies. For electronic delivery, for those attachments, we do pay a flat rate for Outlook, and the number of emails varies significantly every year, as does the number of attachments, and therefore the number of gigabytes per attachment. So that was very brief, but I will answer any questions.
Any questions for Tara? Councilmember Harris, then Councilmember Mahoney, and then Councilmember Grace Matsui.
Yeah, boy, this is getting, so you said, I may have misheard you, but I thought you said 1,400 staff hours a year. Was that correct?
For last year, it was 1,403.
And is it, do we have a full-time public records officer, or is that something that's like 0.4, 0.6, or whatever?
we have a public records officer. It's required by statute. It's the city clerk.
Okay, but that's like a full-time thing. How do you, is there any, it says, the only thing on here that doesn't have a number is technical expertise if necessary. How would one define that or quantify it? Or is it just,
If we
is it
had
subject to our discretion is what I'm trying to say?
If we had to, if there was some sort of request, which I don't know what kind of request would require technical expertise, but if there was one, and they charged the city a rate, we would charge that to the requester, the actual rate.
Okay, and we got like $2,600 last year. All I'm trying to drive at is it just a service that the city needs to provide, or is it a fee that one should recoup? That's, to me, that's the essential balance. And so I'm just, is there a revenue target, or is that not an appropriate question to ask?
Well, this isn't revenue generating. This is just trying to recoup as much of the cost as we can, which we will never be able to recoup all the costs.
I'm just saying, is there any kind of?
No,
It's
no.
just higher than 2,600 is definitely.
Yes, we anticipate it being higher than 2,600.
Okay, that's all I got. Thanks.
Councilmember Mahoney.
So you said 1,403 hours.
Yes.
What's the average hourly rate that we paid? Do we have any idea what that was?
I am not sure.
Yeah, the average wage of the staff. Or
Oh, I do.
$1.02 times 60, you know?
Yeah.
So so roughly $60.
That includes their benefits, which is about 25% of on top. So
I calculated that. I don't have that number in front of me. I'm sorry.
I was just trying to, if you said it's 25% less than 60, 45, okay, that's $64,000, right, in cost. Okay, and we recoup 2,600. And so changing questions a little bit. So somebody comes in, they have a fairly big job. Will they receive any kind of estimate?
Yes. So if they request one, certainly they will receive one. It would be up to public records staff. If they think it is going to be a large amount of money, they would probably give them a heads up, or at least just point them to the fee schedule, which would tell them that a lot of this is going to be charged at a permanent rate. So, and then they could tell them an estimate of how long it would take them so that they could calculate themselves.
Okay, that's good to hear. My last question, so can you kind of take us through the process of how you'll track that? Because obviously if somebody had a job, they'd want to see how many hours, how many minutes did you spend? Obviously in some kind of invoice or billing. How would that process go?
You wanna?
Because I like putting you on the spot.
So our plan is to create a formula in an Excel spreadsheet, just to calculate when we're going to be charging for certain public records requests. For example, like for body worn cameras, the redaction process. So we don't charge for the actual collection of it. It's just when we start the redaction process. And what we would do is we would just have a certain designated time where we would start it, write down when we start it and when we would end it, and then just keep adding to it until we finish that process. And that could take hours or weeks, just depending on the request itself.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Grace Matsui.
Thank you for your presentation. I do think there is a good question in Councilmember Harris's statement about whether or not this is meant to hit a revenue target or become just matching actual costs. And I think anymore, we are not even close to actual cost calculation. I am wondering if there was a comparison to what cities in our area do. Are we way outside? Do most of them use the statutory level, or do some of them do the actual cost calculation?
So yes, and I anticipated this question.
Yay.
Yeah, so I can tell you that Burien, Kent, and SeaTac to varying degrees, basically just use the statutory amounts. Some of them don't even use all of them. Issaquah is a city that calculated a per minute rate. For last year, their per minute rate was 83 cents per minute. And Olympia does charge the statutory rate for everything but body-worn camera redaction, which they charge at the per minute rate of 75 cents per minute. But I do think it's important to point out that our rate is based on our salaries. So it is going to vary city to city, and yeah.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
The next one I have, if I could continue, sorry about that. We talked a bit about fee schedules in general in 2024 and having an automatic revision timeline. So is this something that we should take a look at every 2 years, every 4 years? And is that something that's currently in the ordinance, or is that something that can be taken up?
It's not in there right now. I do think probably because wages will typically go up every year, it could be easily revisited. It's an easy calculation. It could be redone on a yearly basis if that's what the council wanted.
Thank you. Yeah. I do have to say I did make a little mistake here. So I was supposed to offer public comment before council questions, but for the sake of that, just continuity, we'll finish with council questions unless that's like a really big faux pas, Tim.
That's fine.
Okay, so we're going to finish with council questions and then we'll go to public comment. So, Councilmember Nutting.
My question is, and I'll pose it as a question. This is not an attempt to make asking for public records request unfeasible for the person that are making that request. It is just to attempt to recoup our costs for doing the work to give public records.
That's correct.
Okay.
With the implementation of body-worn camera especially, Sarah was telling me the other day, one of those requests took 91 hours to redact. So, yeah, we're just trying to get closer to recouping those costs.
Perfect. That's what I needed. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll make comments later.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought I didn't care about this, but actually, I mean, because the costs were de minimis until potentially now, but the majority of the public records requests are like attorneys. I know, there's a question coming. There's a majority of the public requests from attorneys or that kind of thing?
No, yeah, you can answer that if you'd like.
The majority of the requests actually come from individuals or from insurance companies.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have something for the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Jean, you're good? Okay, thank you. All right. So switching it up a little, it's now time for public comment portion of the hearing. Please keep your comments respectful and understand anyone speaking or acting in a disruptive manner will be removed from the meeting. Please state your name and city of residence if you do come to the podium. Is there anyone, I don't have anybody who signed up for this portion of the meeting tonight. So is there anyone who didn't sign up to speak who wishes to speak? Again, a second time, anyone who did not sign up to speak who wishes to speak? And a third time, anyone who did not sign up to speak who wishes to speak? Okay, great. I'm going to offer one more time. Council, do you have any other questions? Okay. So,
Well, discussion part.
no, it's discussion. This is questions only.
One more
Good.
question. So is there an option at no cost to review public records?
Yes. If they want to come into City Hall, they can review public records for free.
Okay, thank you.
So now I'm going to close the public hearing. And do we have a motion? I think Councilmember Mahoney.
I move to enact draft resolution number 24-037, amending the city's public records fee schedule.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Nutting for the second. Now it's time for discussion. Councilmember Harris?
like I said, I didn't think I cared about this, but when the costs were de minimis, it's irrelevant, but I would just, this is perhaps rhetorical, but I would ask the city to consider that if there are attorneys or people who are low income and they have some kind of legal issue, I would just be concerned if those fees became onerous. In other words, I can imagine a situation where those body cam fees or something are, start to add up, and technically speaking, people have a right to represent themselves and so forth, and it would be cost and somehow, again, that may be an edge case, but it's just, it's expensive, these kinds of things in representation. So just something to think about. Thank you.
Councilmember Nutting, and then Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the reason why I asked the question is because many times up here on the dais we're taxed with putting into act RCWs that make it very difficult to do business in the city, and this is one of the RCWs that we're putting in place to recoup our costs, not to make it difficult to get public records. We are here to help get public records. Any questions that you have, they can be answered. Again, we have a free, an ability to view public records for free, and then if you want to view them in the privacy of your own home, it's going to cost you. We're not making it unavailable to you. We are just trying to recoup our costs. That's all I have.
Okay. Before I go to you, Deputy Mayor, the city attorney would like to make a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on Councilmember Harris's point about defense attorneys. We are required to provide discovery, and so we do provide redacted video and all that information without charging on those cases.
That was going to be my question. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
That was my first point. As somebody who's practiced criminal defense, it is provided as part of the discovery process. It is at no cost because the city chooses to prosecute, and the city has to provide discovery for that. So that's not going to be an impediment to somebody that's accused of a crime or their attorney of getting the information that they need to help defend them, and it never has been. There is also that option to come in and view. I've been part of a team of attorneys, 5 attorneys that went down to Olympia and spent 2 days in a conference room going through boxes and boxes of records from DSHS in order to, because the responsive public records request was onerous. I mean, and the only reasonable way to do it was to go through and actually pay a bunch of young attorneys to come in and review the records, which all got tagged, and then there were various things that needed to be, that you got copies of, but you didn't do that. So there are ways to work around this process that really don't limit somebody's access to public records. I would like to say I think this is a very fair effort to recoup the costs of complying with state law for those that are making public records requests. I understand why the unduly burdensome part is there, and just go with the statutory fee. It's a lot easier than trying to spend the time to do that. So I think this is a good proposal. To me, it looks very reasonable. I don't think that anybody's constitutional rights or statutory rights in this state are going to be severely limited by us just simply recouping the cost. So I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion, comments? Just the observation from my perspective, there's an RCW for a reason, because it's recognized that, basically public records should be available to the public, and they are, but things happen, then pretty soon all the taxpayers are paying for this one event. So I think the RCWs are in place to just help assuage that a little bit, and we're going to be using that. So it obviously doesn't come up to paying for the whole thing. So, all right, with the discussion done, looks like, all in favor, raise your right hand. Looks like it's 7-0. Thank you. All right, next we have some unfinished business to take care of. So the next item here is the discussion of our Des Moines mission, vision, values, which we had a retreat and came up with the document here and some with statements on it. And so we're going to formalize the statement today, depending on what kind of amendments we may consider. We formulated this on November 17th, 2024. So the way I'd like to organize this discussion, unless there are any questions, I'd like to open with the motion and then move into a discussion for any recommended amendments. So are you raising your hand for a question or the motion? Motion, all right. Doesn't look like there's any quick question. Did you have a question? All right, go ahead. Go ahead, Councilmember Nutting.
I move to approve the City of Des Moines mission, vision, and value statement.
Second by Councilmember Mahoney. Open for discussion. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
I think most of us, I think everybody on the council, I hope, was in receipt of some proposed changes in the mission and vision statement from Councilmember Harris. I thought those were very good statements. That was a good process to go through, Councilmember Harris. And I do like the parallel goals one, and I wonder if that would be accepted as a friendly amendment to change the top statement to, you want me to read that out loud?
Well, which option was it, A, B, or C?
It's labeled parallel goals. It is.
Okay, go ahead and go ahead and read it.
Des Moines is a waterfront community committed to maintaining a safe, sustainable environment while ensuring a high quality of life for all who work, live, work, and play.
Okay, so are you recommending that as, and would this be called a friendly amendment, or is it too extensive to just?
Can we just get motions? Can we get motions?
Oh, right. So there is okay, so, if we took the original motion and we don't approve it, then are we open for another motion? Is that what you're saying, Tim?
Well, you
So
have
this
a
is-
motion, you have the motion to pass this, right?
Which has
Deputy-
mission, vision, and values in it, and Deputy Mayor Steinmetz is asking to amend.
Yes. So he can make a motion to amend to include the language he just recommended.
Okay, all right, thank you. So so you move
So
to,
I'm making a
all right.
motion to substitute the language that I just read out loud from Councilmember Harris's proposal.
Okay, do I have a second? I'll second it because I liked that one. So open for discussion on that change. Did you want to discuss?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do think that grammatically, the way it's worded originally doesn't quite flow properly. I think that what was proposed here does flow better, and it creates what are called parallel goals, which means we're not just about one thing, and we're not going to put one thing above the other, but we're about creating a community that ensures all of these particular things. And I think that from a clarity standpoint, it's important to have that. So I would urge everybody to accept the amendment. I don't think it radically changes the intent, but I do think it clarifies and makes the wording of it more clear.
Okay, any other comments or questions, discussion on that amendment? Councilmember Grace Matsui.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that we can get a moment to see it written out.
Oh, good, she's.
So,
Yeah, Bonnie got the short straw to.
we have a pause here.
Okay, sure.
Catch up on that. I think public spelling is not something that should be done, so.
So, there you go. Well, did I take it too soon? Yeah, I think we're good, right? So how are you guys doing? So go ahead, Councilmember Grace Matsui.
I think it's been a little while since I got the comments from Councilmember Harris, and so and I'm paraphrasing here, so I'd like to ask you if you have some comments about why you felt the previous wording. And if I remember, it's because you can't provide something by building it. You have to have it first in order to provide it, or, I'm sorry, can you refresh my memory about why you felt like the other words were circular, I believe it was?
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
So one does not want to be that guy, but at the study session, it felt wrong to me. I said so to Councilmember Oxiger. So I went home and I ran it through ChatGPT, and it provided the critique. That is not my suggestion. It is simply the analysis of the AI overlords. If the council is good with it, you know, swell. But I just, what we came up with at that thing just did not feel right. And this is what the AI says is just syntactically, you know, yeah. So I'm just, so I'm not trying to, I just don't want to take credit for, because it's not something I came up with. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion or questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Yeah, on this, you made a motion. Des Moines is what, this statement. I gave the second. We've had discussion. Now I'm voting on that amendment. Okay, any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Point of order. So I made a motion. It was seconded. Then another motion was made, seconded. The first motion was never voted on. There's a second motion that's on the board. So just point of order, I need to know, because this is a little out of character for the last 11 years that I've been on the board.
Tim wanted amendments in the form of a motion.
I understand that, but there was a motion prior that was not voted on.
But your motion was to pass this. So once we do that, we're done. So you made the motion to pass this. Another council member made a motion to amend this document. So we need to decide on this amendment first, and then there might be subsequent motions to amend. And then once the council has decided on the final version, then we're back to your motion.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other questions? We're good on this particular one. Are we ready to vote? Okay, so all in favor of this amendment on this first sentence, raise your right hand. Okay, Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Grace Matsui, Councilmember Mahoney, and myself, all opposed. Councilmember Harris. Okay. Any other amendments to the mission, vision, or values in the document here? Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
I do have one.
Okay.
On vision.
Okay. Under vision, okay.
And that I would propose so it would read, to be the premier waterfront destination in the Pacific Northwest.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Councilmember Nunn.
second that. I think that,
Okay,
yeah, I think that makes sense.
okay. Any discussion? Councilmember Grace Matsui.
Yeah, I think this is a point that we had a robust discussion on whether to use the word marine or waterfront. And we wanted to use marine because it was more expansive than just built structures facing the water. We were talking about boating, fishing, scuba diving, and more activities that were just not set on the waterfront. And so I asked that we consider that marine is meant to be a more expansive and inclusive word than waterfront.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, I disagree. I think marine is much more limiting because it limits yourself to the water. It says nothing about the community. A waterfront destination includes the water and includes the community. I know that this was also proposed by Bill and Patty Linscott.
I think he said coastal. He wanted coastal.
Coastal was what he suggested. I still think waterfront gets to what we're trying to get at, which is our community, and we have declared we're a waterfront community, so a waterfront destination, to me, makes sense, and it's internally consistent to use that same word. And so I just think it's an improvement, and I do agree with Councilmember Grace Matsui's description that it was a robust discussion at the time, and I guess I haven't quite given up on waterfront yet.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm making the amendment, or proposing the amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Councilmember Mahoney.
Yeah, I agree with Member Grace Matsui. Sorry about that. I remember the robust conversation and the discussion about waterfront and marine, and I agree. It's all encompassing. It includes marine. The definition, or at least as we built as a collective, was that it included the water as well as the waterfront. So I'm not in favor of the change.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Councilmember Grace Matsui.
I will say that I will go with the will of the majority on this discussion, and so it may be helpful. I offer to abstain because, again, I think it could be either, so I'm not willing to say I'm opposed to one or the other.
Councilmember Harris.
So, I got nothing in this, but in my opinion, the vision statement should be the hidden gem of Puget Sound. That was the slogan that I heard 30 years ago when I first got here. This is the hidden gem of Puget Sound. But I'm not even going to put it on the floor or table or whatever this object is, but that's how I think of this place. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor of all in favor of that sentence up there with the word waterfront? Raise your right hand. 3 of us. So Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, Councilmember Nutting, and myself all opposed. Councilmember Harris, those who abstain. So it looks like, well, here's what I'm.
Wait a minute. Councilmember Oxiger
Still thinking? Councilmember Oxiger is still thinking. Okay.
An
What?
abstention counts as a no, that's why.
Pardon?
An abstention counts as a no.
I think we changed that. I think we changed that.
Under Robert's
We
rules.
changed, well, and we changed that in our protocol manual also. Yeah. So we still don't have a vote. Okay.
I will go with marine. I mean, with waterfront.
Waterfront. That's
So you got
4. So Councilmember Oxiger is an aye for waterfront, and that's the majority. And the other, we did have, who's abstained? One abstention, and the other two opposed. Councilmember Mahoney's opposed, and
I'll abstain, sure, why not? If
two
we're all-
abstentions.
Can
Councilmember
we
Harris
just
abstains. All right. Looks like, okay. I think, are there any other amendments being offered to this vision, mission, value statement? Okay, so now we are to the main motion offered by Councilmember Nutting. Any other comments?
So
All
do I
right.
need to remake the motion as
As
passing this
amended.
as amended?
Let's take a look. No, it just says approve the mission, vision, value statement, and we just,
Yeah, it's been amended, so we can go back to your,
Original
your
motion,
motion,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
yeah. All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Grace Matsui, Councilmember Mahoney, and myself all opposed. Councilmember Harris. Okay. We have a mission, vision, value statement. So now we're coming into new business. We have several items on new business. We actually do have several items left. I am wondering if we would like to take about a 5-minute break. Would the council like that? Got some nods? Okay, take a 5-minute break. Well, I'm going to give you 7 minutes, so it gives you time to use the restroom if you want. All right. Do I need to gavel this? All right, 7-minute break.
As long as I lose my own.
Main body was. Just makes sense to me.
But I think it was out of courtesy.
Oh dear. You gotta be careful what you say.
Exactly, because it doesn't.
Okay, we're going to reconvene. If you could take your seats, please. This is too fun to just chit chat.
I know.
I'm really looking forward to moving.
I told him today, I was like,
Yes. It's 8:04 and we're reconvening the council meeting. So next up, we have, we're going to begin our new business items. Have several of those tonight. The first one is our Des Moines Marina Steps project, and the purpose of this item is to brief council on options moving forward regarding the Marina Steps project. And we have a staff presentation with our Public Works Director, Mike Slevin.
Before Mike gets started, I want to just say, we received quite a few questions over the week of sort of, what about this scenario? What about that scenario? And so we have prepared tonight kind of new information, candidly, from what was in your packet, or more robust sort of vetting of different options. And so I want to say that although staff are welcome to, take direction tonight if you all want, there's no harm if you choose to have discussion tonight, and if there's still additional questions, to move it to the 23rd or what have you. So I just want you to know going in, don't feel like pressure, because there is kind of new scenarios from what you saw in your packet. Mike?
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council, and the citizens of Des Moines. I'm Mike Slevin, your Public Works Director, and I'm here tonight to review the Des Moines Marina Steps project. As you're aware, we have been working on this project for quite some time, and recent construction bids came out higher than we had anticipated. The staff and I are hoping to get some feedback from Council and some direction for future of the project. Let me see here. So I'm going to go back and do a quick overview of the project, because it's been a while since we brought it before Council. The project is intended to be a signature project connecting the Marina waterfront, the beach park facilities, and the downtown, as well as future possibilities for such things as ferry service. When I came to Des Moines and I was introduced to this project 6 months ago, I thought of it as something similar to the glass bridge in Tacoma, which the city of Tacoma had built, which is helping connecting the downtown to the waterfront to other amenities, and then spurring, with the hope of spurring economic development in the future. The project generally connects 223rd Street to the marina, offering a pedestrian connection and an activity and park space, providing the public with panoramic views, highlighting water quality through daylighting of water quality features. It is meant to link the other future projects, such as 223rd's complete street renovation, the future beach park improvements, which we're going to be talking about after this agenda item, as well as future marina improvements and economic development initiatives in the downtown along Marine View Drive. So the project background. The Des Moines Marina Steps Capital Project has been ongoing since 2023 as an official CIP project. And since that time, staff and consultants have been working diligently to receive public input, design, and permit the project, including a public forum on the project, including input and design on all the design components in February of 2024. The City of Des Moines Council has moved the Des Moines Marina Steps project forward through a series of legislative actions, including approving the issuance of bonds to finance the project in 2023, and the City of Des Moines Capital Improvement Plan in 2023. Prior to 2023, this project is older than that timeline, but prior to 2023, the work for this project was done under the Marina Redevelopment, and that was seen, project which was seen in previous CIPs, I think going back to 2019 or 20. On October 9th of 2024, the project was advertised for bid, and on November 20th of 2024, two 2 responsive bids were received, and the engineer's estimate to construct the project was $8.167 million, excluding design and permitting. The construction and management on both bids, excluding design and construction management. Both bids were substantially higher than the engineer's estimate, coming in at $11.741 million and $12.512 million respectively. The lowest responsive bid was $3.57 million over the estimated project construction costs. Based on these costs, the Public Works Department recommended the rejection of all bids due to lack of funds to accomplish the work as bid. The council approved this rejection of all bids on December 12th of last year, 2024, and asked for an update, including possible courses of action on today's council meeting, January 9th of 2025. So the key features of the project that were added to the design to make it to be a signature product, a placemaking product that would help draw people to the waterfront. There's a spray park involved, chutes and ladderways. There's a park setting involved in the entire project that helped to bring families to the waterfront in downtown, as well as the connectivity of the stairs and the ADA walkways. There's net climber, and then the stormwater landings on the right, the lower right, show where a grant was received to help daylight some of the water quality features we would be putting into the project to show Des Moines' connection to making sure Puget Sound stays a safe and fun place to play. The stormwater treatments, we do have a grant for those, and we do have a commerce grant additionally with those. So the original project timeline. So I spoke a little bit about the project becoming a real project from a public works sense of view, although the community's been talking about it for quite some time. It's the spring of 2023. In the summer of 23, we did geotechnical analysis. In the fall, we did outreach and design development. In the spring and summer, we did design and permitting of 2024. And then we advertised, as I stated earlier, in the fall of 2024. And then we recently opened with the hope to start construction this winter. That we did not realize that goal because of the increased costs in the bid. So our budget for the project, to ground everyone in where we're at. So our revenue sources for the Marina Steps project is Department of Commerce grant of $1 million. That grant is viable until June of 2027. We have to expend those funds. We had city ARPA funds in the project of $1.3 million. Those were removed because we could not meet the obligation requirement when we decided to reject all bids. The debt proceeds, which are the bond proceeds for this project that have been dedicated by the city, or the city's contribution to this project, is $7.869 million. And those are bond proceeds. And then we have a stormwater grant for the stormwater project. So currently, with the ARPA removed, we have $9.369 million of funding available for this project. The estimated expenditures, so the design and permitting, the majority of the $1.06 million that you see there is expended already to have design bid documents prepared and ready. Construction management, construction, and contingency, all adding up to a total of $10.669 million for the project is what we had estimated the expenditures to be. Of course, we know that the construction piece came in about $3.5 million high. So course of action, I guess this is the meat of the presentation. The staff has brainstormed with our consultants 3 possible courses of action for the council. We are not recommending any single course of action. This slide is meant to spur discussion among the council and the hope that a clear direction is assigned to staff, either at this meeting or at future meetings. Any course of action, combination of course of action, or modified course of action, or an entirely new course of action that comes out of this discussion is welcomed from the council, and the staff will implement that. So the first proposed course of action is to value engineer and rebid the project. Our concern with that, and it has several phases to that. One is we would redesign the existence. We take a look at the existing and we reduce scope. So we do things like reduce some of the overlooks on the stormwater side, maybe reduce the park or remove the park. So we're going to take a look, have the consultant take a look at the costs for value engineering and what can be removed from the project. And that would mean indeed a reduction in scope. Now, a reduction in scope such as that comes down to the point is, at what point does the reduction in scope diminish the original intent of having a signature placemaking project that people want to come see versus just a concrete staircase? So there's a place in there that goes both ways. And that cost estimate, we're thinking that you could take somewhere between $2 and $4 million out of the project. If you take $2 million out of the project, is it still acceptable and does it meet the requirements that was intended as a signature project? If you take $4 million out, my belief is that it wouldn't, but we could probably go that far and end up with a staircase, right? So that's a question for council is how do you want us to do that? And we believe that because of the project vision was so grand, that would put a lower possibility of achievement of that goal of having that signature placemaking project there. But that is an option, and that's option one. Option two is delay the project, pursue additional funding sources. We would still pursue the VE because when we rebid the project, we rebid it as a base with additive alternatives. And so one of the things I didn't really cover too well in the first one is that we're going to need to add about $100,000 to our consulting contract for this project so that they can re-break out the bid documents and figure out, if we do A, B, and D, what does that look like? So we would have new designs and things we could pull out or add into. So we have a little additional consulting work to do. If we did number two, which is delay the project and pursue additional funding sources, I would still highly recommend that we do that because we don't know how much of the funding we're going to get. We don't know what those other funding sources are. And in the future, if we do bid this project, if it's delayed even longer than number two, then it's good to have those options available in your back pocket, all right? So that when we could just adjust costs, but still have the ideas of what we can break down and not. There's value in the existing project and the effort the existing design and the effort that's gone into it with the community to produce a project that people seem to like. The project has lost $1.3 million in ARPA funds, as I mentioned earlier, and we would recommend that we would replace these ARPA funds with $1.3 million in bond proceeds additional that we would take out of the Redondo Pier reconstruction if option two is suggested. And that would make that project whole from the ARPA losses, although we are still short for the total project numbers. We recommend seeking additional funding sources through the state in lieu of the Redondo Pier. I mentioned earlier that we have $1 million it's actually available to us, $970,000 because they take $30,000 for managing the grant, the state does. But we have about $1 million from the state. And I spoke with Commerce this morning. We have until 2027, the Department of Commerce, to spend those funds. But she also said that this project is the type of project that the state and the Department of Commerce is highly supportive of. The idea of bringing more foot traffic and building downtown economic development is the type of project that if we asked for additional monies from the state and we went through our sponsors and our state legislators, that we would probably have a decent possibility of scoring some more money through those grants, commerce grants. So that's an option. So we would.
Option three, sorry, can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by bid a base project with additive alternatives? That's terminology everybody may not know.
So what we would do is the project would be about the same, but we'd have different sections of the project. Like, do we build the project minus the playground piece and the spray park? But we build the grade there in case we want to add it in the future. And so we could remove that chunk of the project, although we could add it, give us the opportunity to add it to the future. If the bids came in well or cost effectively, then we could add that back in if it was below the total budget dollars we had. And there'd be a series of menu items like that that we could add back in as additive alternatives. One would be, another example would be undergrounding the power in 223rd. We could remove the power undergrounding on 223rd for now, and we could add it into a future project. And if the bids came in good, we could say, no, we want to do that. We want to accomplish that under this project. That's about a $450,000 item for the undergrounding. It's about another $400,000 for the playground, 150 for the 130 for the spray park. So those different things are in there. So we could, mix and match, or we could bid the project as a base, have items that are bid, each individual item, if it was added to the project, and then we would have, okay, which ones are we going to pick and what are our priorities? And we'd have, after we have those numbers in hand, we can come back to the council and say, hey, here's what we think should go, here's what staff recommendations are, what does the council think, and what does the community think? So that's what I mean by a base project with additive alternatives instead. And number three, we could reevaluate the project with the goal of a long-term project development strategy. And that being that the project, the connectivity of the project and how it connects the marina, the beach park, the future of 223rd, all of those different things to create an economic piece to the downtown over time. We could take a look at that and then reevaluate it all as a single idea and package. When I was in Tacoma, we had the Tacoma downtown plan that came into fruition in like 1994, 95, about right when I was hired, right before I was hired. And that plan was a 30-year plan that had many, many projects listed. And then you built through that list of projects. And some of those projects were delayed. The hotel was delayed for a decade because the market changed. But it came back later because there was an overall strategic plan that was based upon, a generation. It survived many councils, many city managers, and many public works directors. So that's an option where we could just say, hey, we're going to hold this project now, and we're going to take a look at the downtown as a whole, and go forward with whatever we come out with that and re-engage the community and take a look at the whole thing. Now, if we do that, we still have to utilize bond funds. We have bond funds that are outstanding. And so then what would we do with those bond funds that we have? And my recommendation for that would be is that we would take the bond funds that we have in the parks construction, and we would do kind of the opposite of what I recommended in number 2, and that is expend the funds on the Redondo Pier project, because the bond funds are listed in a number of projects are listed in the bond ordinance. The marina steps, the new piers for the marina, the Redondo Pier itself, and the Memorial Triangle Park. So we could take the monies that are in the stairs if we decide to do option 3, and we could utilize those monies and try to expedite the pier to the extent possible, because that is listed. You could utilize bond funds on other projects the council desires. That's going to be difficult from a couple of there's some legislative pieces involved with that because we would have to amend the bond ordinance. But there's also some difficulties, isn't that there's not a lot of projects that are shelf ready, and there are carrying costs to the bonds going forward, and arbitrage and other things. So there's that.
And then I'm going to jump in just because there's a typo.
Oh.
The delays Redondo Pier does not apply to option 3.
It goes on option 2.
Right. So option 2 potentially delays Redondo Pier. Option 3 has the potential to actually accelerate Redondo Pier. So we're going to make that correction in the version that's posted online. But please disregard that bullet point.
All right. So now, questions.
Okay. All right. So first, I'll go with Councilmember Nutting, then Councilmember Oxiger.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I've got a couple questions that are speculative. From what I understand, we had almost 20 contractors poll plans, to look at this project, and we had two.
That's
So 1% bid the project, right? So what can we do to make this project more attractive to the contractors to bid? Because quite literally, there are contractors that are closing their doors and laying off there, and 300 people. I mean, it's not a good thing out there right now. So I'm just, what do we do to get more bidders?
Well, so on Councilmember Nutting, we did speak with our consultants about that, and we did contact the two responsive bidders about some things that we could do. One was the type of wall and piece of wall they thought it was not something that they would have chosen to design. So our consultants would be in a value engineering effort. We might look at optional walls or different walls. Another piece is of the 20, actually about, I don't have the exact number, but it was almost 10, I think, were subs that were drawing plans. The project was just talking to a couple of people that did drop out, one that actually brought in a bid packet and then left. The project was, in the market that we bid in October, was like there's big mega projects out there and there's little projects.
Right.
And we just didn't have a lot of availability of contractors at that time, and the market's changed a lot in 6 months.
This is more of a special project, the $5 million or, $10 to $5 million project.
Yeah, they're in that middle piece where it's hard to find a contractor to come get that, right?
Right.
So we think that by changing some of the ways we bid as a lump sum, because we thought that would be more attractive to contractors, and we found out that some of the larger contractors might have bid it, thought they would have preferred a lump sum because they don't want to put the staff time in up front. Right. The two specialty contractors that bid it were okay with the lump sum and they kind of liked it, but they felt there was some risk to them as smaller contractors in the lump sum, and so they put some extra pricing in there. Like one of the items for one of the smaller companies that weren't used to it was when we're compacting the fill for the stairs, the vibration to the condos next door, right? So they hadn't done a project that had that kind of risk before, and so they put a lot of money for risk in that.
Right.
And so, making some of those, now that we've heard that from the smaller and medium contractors that bid the job, try to take some of those concerns out and maybe take some of that risk on the city or do some insurance or some other options. So those are all things, if we go forward with the VE option, that we would be evaluating.
And I guess to that point, over excavating and using CDF to go back may be a more viable option than compacting soils and having risk with the condos next door. So
those might be some things in the VE we look with our geotech. Right now we were bringing in clean, easily compacted fill because almost all of it's fill. It's very little cut.
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. Okay, and I've brought it up as a question before, but never really drilled down on it. Would it be more attractive as a city instead of being, because I know jurisdictions do this where they have a point system as opposed to being a parent low bidder system, where by being the parent low bidder, you receive points, and then being the next in line, you receive points, and then the next in line, you receive points. But as you go forward, if you've done business in the city before, you receive more points on top of that. So you may have been the middle bidder, but at the end of the day, you end up being the person that gets the project, the contractor that gets the project, as opposed to the parent low bidder. So is that something as a council that we could help out with that would possibly get us more bidders on these projects, or?
I think some type of incentive program. We had an incentive program in Tacoma specifically around opportunity zones and those types of issues, and we did something similar to that for those to incentivize those types of projects and contractors. That's something we can definitely go back and look at, but that's a lot. That's a pretty large assignment to come up with a program like that. But it's possible.
Okay. It just might be something that we need to look at as a council in the future for these larger projects that we are aggressively taking on, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilmember Oxiger, you were next.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So, given the, how high the bids came in, we were off by approximately 30% of the, was it for 30% across the board, or was there something in particular that was particularly out of whack?
There was a couple of things that were out of whack. One was the risk for compaction with the common, with the, how near we were to the condos. There was concern on that. And there were some others with regards to fill, specialty concrete, and things like that. So there were some items that came in as expected, some that were in the middle, and then there was a couple that took us by surprise.
Okay.
Wasn't consistent across the board. The answer would be no to the question.
Okay, so I take it that in the re-examining of this, that we're looking at, okay, is there an alternative way of doing those things that were so far out of whack?
That's one of the reasons why we want to go back and value engineer and take a look at that with the feedback from the contractors that we had, and try to see if we can put this bid out with some differences to make those costs come down.
Okay.
But I'm not sure we would get to the original estimated cost, even with those, given how much inflation and construction costs have gone up in the last year.
So given what we've already expended on the project and would have to go back and look at it again, what are we looking at the cost of this project now as opposed to?
So
how much more money are we going to need?
Well, right now, I'm using the baseline bid as how much more money we would need, about $3 million. I think, but it's going to be somewhere between what the bid was now with some reduction, but not all the reduction that we would have listed to get the project down to just like a concrete sidewalk or a concrete staircase, right? So there's a mix in there, right? And depends on how much money if we're successful in getting additional funds, if we take option 2 and we delay for maybe a year and we go look for additional funds, so then maybe it's not as much, right? So maybe I can't tell you how much it's going to cost until we bid it and which options we would take. But my gut would say that we could probably bring the project in for around $10.5 million. And so we'd need some additional funds if we want to keep it a signature project.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Harris, then Councilmember Nutting, then Councilmember Mahoney.
So regarding the bond, maybe I'm not asking it right or I'm just not processing, but you used the word arbitrage. And so is this just something we can hold on to indefinitely? I mean.
So this is one of those sections where I'm going to throw my compadre under the bus here. But this is really a finance question, but there's a timeline to expend.
Then please, I got a couple other things that are more engineering. I'm sorry, I just don't want it to be like
Generally speaking, there's a timeline to expend the funds. And if you hold them longer than that, there's a carrying cost.
I get it. I just keep wanting to know what that is. So anyway, okay, so then you mentioned the wall. And, I mean, and that pricked up my ears because I'm like, if you value engineer it, is changing the construction of the wall, does that reduce our flexibility?
So the wall sits on the south side of the stairs. And if you're able to remove some of the overlooks and some of those things, you can have a lesser degree or stout of a wall because it affects the engineering design. So if we were to say value engineering out the overlooks and the connection to the existing, there's also some thoughts about changing some of the ways the wall connects to right under by the condos and how the pipes come through there to daylight. So there's some thought processes that we could reduce the cost of that side of the project by removing some structural elements that, such as the cantilevered outlooks and things like that. So the wall cost would come down because right now they're driven by those other structural members that it supports.
Okay, and so is there any room in there, I'll keep, yeah, is there any room in there for some kind of pre-design work on the old dry stack? Or is that a possibility?
I think that's a totally separate project, council member. So, I mean, if we want to start a project to do that, there's something.
I think that would require you to amend
That's
the
the
ordinance.
ordinance. Okay, so I just, if
Additionally, I would just remind you that the bond funds are general fund supported dollars. No, all right, Jeff, you come up. It's really your moment.
So the question is paying the bonds or?
If Councilmember Harris is interested in kind of pivoting to the dry stack project, that would definitely require amending the ordinance that council approved on what the bond projects are, but that is doable. And then I guess what I was asking is, the bond dollars are anticipated to be supported by general fund, whereas that would be a Marina enterprise project.
I think, so the dock replacement supported by the Marina. The other projects are the debt service is paid by real estate excise tax, one-time tax, proceeds from the parking. So that's not general fund. So that would be the distinction.
But it's also not Marina enterprise fund dollars.
Correct.
Specifically. That's what I should have said.
and so my more specific question is how long can we hold on to these things?
So I want to give this a little context for maybe the public watching from home. So the bonds that were issued are tax-exempt bonds, and so what that means is, and the municipal bonds, cities can issue those bonds and pay a little bit less interest, and investors are inspired or encouraged to invest because they'll take a lower rate, but they won't be taxed on the income from the bonds. But the situation that creates is you can have a city issue a bond at 2%, collect the money, and then go invest it at like 6%, let's say, and then they're making a profit. And that's what arbitrage is that increase. It's the difference between issuing it at the low rate and then collecting from another investment at a higher rate. So we issued bonds 15 months ago. We've not spent, I think we still have 90% of the proceeds, and they've been sitting in the local government investment pool. So it's likely we're going to have to pay to the U.S. Treasury a certain amount of arbitrage funds. So if you have arbitrage, you have someone calculate it for you if you have an arbitrage issue, and then if you have earnings that are of that nature, you have to give it to U.S. Treasury. So there's exemptions to that, and that is what we would refer to as the spend down schedule. And basically, there's two of them, because of course they want to make it complicated, but it's 18 months and 2 years. We're at 15 months right now, and that's to have it fully expended. So today we sent our data on our 2018 and 2023 bonds to our consultant, and in 2 weeks we'll know really what the arbitrage situation is for the city.
But unlike the grant money with the 2027, like, hard deadline, you're saying this is something where we could just continue to pay fees. I don't want to oversimplify it, but there isn't like a hard stop where a hard spend by date.
I think it would be 5 years, possibly. At least you have to have your arbitrage calculated once during a 5-year period.
Okay.
So
there's time. I mean, there's a certain amount.
If we're earning enough to.
As long as you're willing to pay the cost.
That's what you want to do. Then.
No, I'm not trying. I'm trying to turn.
Right. It's not. It doesn't expire.
I understand there are nuances. I'm trying to start from something broad and then with stipulating that it has to get more refined. Okay, got it. I think that's it. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Nutting, I think you were next.
Thank you, Mayor, and I recognize this is my second time. I have one last question. So how do we advertise that we're going out? Do we go out to the BXWA?
Yes.
And is that the only
We do.
platform we do?
That's our primary platform. We also advertise the requirements for public bidding, and I forget what the newspaper is right now off the top of my head, but.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Mahoney and then Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Thank you, Mayor. The first one is really a question for Jeff. Obviously, the dry stack storage, if we were to amend the ordinance, then an additional amount of money would have to be the responsibility of the marina, correct? And they probably, most likely, last report, didn't even have the bandwidth to do that for at least 5 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say, in my opinion, the marina doesn't have room to take on additional debt.
Okay.
But that's how I would say it.
All right. And the next one I say, and I say this where it'll be something that a lot of people may spin, but reality of, we've got two big projects that fit under the funding. One is the Redondo Fishing Pier, and the other is the Marina Steps. And the question I have is, seeing those, my personal opinion is that the Marina Steps would bring me much more bang to the city and the development and access for more people in the community. And when I say that, not that both projects are important, I want to make that clear. But I have to ask the question, have we considered shifting some of the dollars from the fishing pier, because we're still trying to get costs on that, in this AV process, and then considering moving those money? I saw where you had the 1.3 and one suggestion, but in that vision, would we be able to shift those dollars? And that doesn't require any kind of ordinance change. It just requires that the funding go to a certain entity. So what I'm saying is it possible to shift fishing pier dollars to the Marina Steps?
Yes, you can move funds between projects that are cited in the bond ordinance without, I mean, we'd probably want council weigh in on that.
Well,
of
there
course,
would
but-
obviously be,
But
yes.
there's no other, requirement for that.
And so my question for Mike is that with this AV process, we get the components and what they cost, and with that, we could make a decision if we should, say, take 2 million from the fishing pier and move it over to the Marina Steps. Is that correct?
Councilmember, yes, that is correct, but what we were looking at,
I understand you were only looking at the Marina Steps,
Well,
but I'm looking at the whole pool of money.
we were looking at the 1.8 million in bond money that is in the Redondo Pier as being, so there's a little bit additional.
Yeah.
But using that to replace the ARPA funds would be one of the things that.
Yeah, there was, I mean, if I recall the bond, the 26 million, there was what, 14 for the docks. There
There's
was
1.8, there's 1.8 million right now in the pier.
There's only 1.8 allocated in the pier, but we had 14 million for the docks. We had roughly about 8 million, that's 22. And the triangle wasn't much of anything, so I'm looking for the difference there, and that's more than the 1.8.
I'd have to take, I know that we're carrying, right now in the financials, we're carrying 1.8 million in bond funds for the
Okay.
pier. And then I think it's let me push my numbers back here. So we're carrying 7.8 million in bonds in the steps, 1.8 million in the stairs. There is, I'd have to ask Scott what he has in the in the pier, and then there's only a few $100,000 in the.
Because like I said, the gap I see is around $4 million, and we're talking 1.8.
I'd have to.
Yeah, anyway, I want to explore that possibility, because we do have to make decisions on the ultimate filter we should all use is what's best for Des Moines. And I need to understand that might be an option on the table.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so it would be Deputy Mayor Steinmetz and then Councilmember Oxiger, but I would like to interject an idea of this conversation. There's a lot of questions here. We have a lot of items. We may have to eliminate some of these. We'll probably have to extend. At the beginning of this presentation, the city manager said, this is not hot. We don't have to make this decision right away. So I'm going to recommend that we, that we continue to generate questions, and if we've got permission to write them in, that we get a chance to let some of this information gel, think about ideas. If we've got significant questions, if we can keep writing them, or they can collect them and come back and continue this discussion. It seems like, I don't know if anybody here is going to be ready to nod and give a firm direction to staff tonight, no matter how long we talk about this tonight. So would the council be in favor of bringing this back up with the permission to write questions to staff? Are we good with that? Okay, let's do that. I don't think you're going to get firm direction tonight, and thank you so much for this. Lots of work involved. I'm looking forward to the next discussion, and I think we'll have a good outcome. Thank you, Mike. All right, so the next item, Des Moines Creek Estuary Project Update. The purpose of this item is to receive a briefing on the project with an ask for feedback from the council. We have a staff presentation from Surface Water Environmental Engineering Manager, Tyre Beakley, along with a team.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. We will try to keep this brief. As you know, this was presented in a full version at Environment Committee, so this is abbreviated. I appreciate Councilmember Harris's recommendation to watch that, the Environment Committee video, if you do want more context for this presentation. With me, I'll have brief introductions to the team who's going to assist answering any questions that the council may have after the presentation. So quick introductions.
Hello, Council. Thank you for having us. My name is Alex Johnson. I'm a Surface Water Engineer and Capital Improvement Project Manager for the Surface Water Group with the City of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm Paul Fent. I'm the Project Manager with Parametrics of the Des Moines Creek Estuary Project.
Hi, I'm Nikki Redden. I'm a Project Engineer with Parametrics.
All right, so presenting this project, this is a capital improvement project listed in the Surface Water Capital 6-year CIP plan. Again, I'm only going to present key takeaways from the earlier presentation, and no motion is presented in today's item. Just looking for council feedback, input, as we present where the staff is with this project and the current alternatives presented. Quick background, this takes place at the Des Moines Beach Park where Des Moines Creek exits and enters the Puget Sound. So we have the promenade area where the Wasson House was removed and has the bulkhead. We have the armoring of the creek, and that turns into the estuary. And then we have the meadow or the lawn of the beach park that are all under consideration as the project limits from the floor of the marina to the limits of Des Moines where we meet Normandy Park. So on the onset of this project, this is part of a larger regional initiative for salmon recovery. And this is highlighted in WIRA 9. WIRA is our regional watershed with 17 other jurisdictions. This project is highlighted as a nearshore project to help promote salmon recovery in the region, promote healthy shoreline, healthy sound. That's one element goal of the project. Other goals include flood protection. As we see climate change coming and rising sea levels, I'll get into that in a little more. Another goal is promoting beach access for pedestrian use and park enhancement. As we modify and present modifications to the corridor, how do we improve the park elements to make it more attractive to users, as shown in the photo here, who enjoy the beach park spaces? Other considerations that we're trying to balance are funding. This is all grant funded, this project, so we want to make sure it's attractive to funding partners. Balancing these objectives for flood protection and salmon recovery are the two main funding sources that we could tap into for this project. And also we want to make sure it's viable for permitting agencies. We want to present a project that will get permitted. So that will lead into the staff preferred alternatives and why we are justifying those as the best path forward to get funding while balancing our goals. So the lead up, we spent 1 year getting to this point through design, site assessment, site survey, working with coastal engineers to whittle down the alternatives. Site constraints, just briefly, we have steep slopes. We have access roads serving Des Moines infrastructure of the beach park, but also the roadway has an access for Normandy Park residents who access on the beach further up the shoreline, and that is a site constraint we need to keep. All the colorful lines on the map, those are all different utilities that we factor into our design and considerations that add cost for relocations. So getting into predicted flood levels, we ran sea level rise analysis to the year 2100. We got 3 categories of blue. The dark blue is essentially what we could expect on an annual level for flood inundation of the beach park. So we have the photos there from 2022. That dark blue would closely represent what happened in that king tide event. And you can see how much the park is flooded. Again, so we go to the middle blue, shaded blue area, that can represent sort of a coin flip of flood inundation per month. So 50% chance of that any given month of this year in 2100, you'd see flooding of the beach park. And that was a few weeks ago, it just happened, equivalent December 2024 tide event down the beach park. Again, similar down to what happened in Redondo and experiencing that cleanup down there. And then finally, what we could see on a monthly occurrence as sea level rise happens is just minor inundation of the meadow area on an annual level. Again, all this is just informing the alternatives we're soon to present, but the bulkhead condition is also a factor in what we are calling kind of the no action alternative. What if we don't do this project? Well, we have a bulkhead out here that's holding up the promenade, protecting the promenade area that has severe cracking, sinkholes forming in the pavement. We lost a piece of the ramp in the last storm. You see, this was the image there of the storm. We actually had wave action come up onto it, behind it. So I think regardless of this project or a different project, the city would need to strongly consider what we're going to do with this bulkhead going forward. And I don't know if anything else is currently on the capital agenda for that. So with that bulkhead alternative, this is again, weighing all those goals, competing interests of park and habitat and flood protection, we've sort of landed on this is the maximum where we can maximize all those goals in this alternative. So a few highlights here are just the enhancements to the park recreation area, steps down to the beach, a sandy beach recreation area, expanded gravel beach, so this is walking access down now instead of a bulkhead that limits access, and then near shore planting to expand the habitat. And then we have an image of sort of a example project that may show what this near shore, instead of a bulkhead, what it could look like. And those plantings, again, I'm going to go pretty quickly and we can come back to this if we have questions. So looking at the meadow, and this is really looking at what we can do with the estuary component, or widening the mouth of the creek and removing all that hard riprap rock out there on the shoreline front. Yeah, a lot to cover. So raising up the meadow to 14 feet. Currently it's around 12 feet, so that's adding 2 feet of fill to the meadow to protect and preserve that lawn area. The no-action alternative for the meadow is, as we go to the 2100, you'll likely see inundation of the lawn, maintenance cost will increase, and it may just turn into an intertidal marsh naturally as it sees reoccurrence of sea and that salty environment. So this is help protect what meadow we can. I did want to note there is a historic boundary for the meadow that was taken into account. We need to preserve it. It's part of the historical registry of the buildings in the beach park down there. This is very high level conceptual, so this may change a little bit as we go through design. But the kind of yellow tan area, that's what we are calling intertidal marsh, and this is a habitat benefit to the rearing salmon as they're coming down after spawning. Again, we have a photo of what an intertidal marsh could look like as way of an example, and this also maintains the beach access route. Last item here on this slide is this would require the shift of the pedestrian bridge further up the creek, as noted here, And then that would, you know, with that would come new pedestrian connection to it from the bulkhead area, the promenade. Questions? And this is a rendering of the bulkhead portion, the promenade area, of what that staff preferred alternative is. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Mahoney.
This isn't so much a question as that, well, yes, it is. So what we're talking about here is basically a 30% reduction in the size of the meadow on the staff recommended proposal. And on the rest of them, is that some of them would be greater than 30%, but we're basically, seems to be a theme tonight, 30%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll go back to it. Yeah, roughly 30% reduction in what the meadow is currently. That is flexible. So we can move that line wherever we want. Now, the less meadow that's removed, you lose that competitive function for getting grant revenues. Because essentially that environmental component gets less and less as you have more armoring, as you aren't installing that habitat. So no, this 30% isn't set in stone. Essentially, we would continue to advance design and take input and comment as needed at this point.
Okay, I think it's just something I think we need to take into consideration, considering this is a rental facility and we're reducing size of the meadow by 30%. So I think it's just something we have to figure into the calculus. So thank you.
Absolutely, noted.
Councilmember Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make these as quick as I can. I attended the environmental committee meeting, and that was excellent. Are we obligated to provide the beach access?
No.
So we could end it if we needed to?
Well, are you talking about the vehicle access?
Yeah, so the
Oh, the
vehicles that
vehicle.
can go over
Sorry.
to the houses that are on the beach, are we
Yes.
obligated for that?
That's with the easement currently.
Okay, even,
Obligated.
yeah, I knew it was an easement, but I didn't know if, because of environmental reasons, it might be able to.
Normandy Park is working on a very long-term project to acquire those homes. So there may be a point in the future where they acquire all of them and it's no longer needed.
And it won't be an issue if that occurs. Okay. I remember back in the day, they were talking about environmental impact credits, basically from other places that were doing mitigation, and they were putting funding in, and then there was monies available for that. Would this project probably classify itself as maybe something like that? I know there's grants, but this is additional funding that is possible because we're restoring the estuary, as I understand it, and that was efforts to do so. In addition to the mitigation you guys were talking about here.
So I think what you're talking about could you use this as a mitigation bank? That's what people.
Yeah, that was the language, I just
That they're
didn't have the words.
selling. It's always possible but I think that there will be a strong balance between the benefits that you get from the bulkhead in one area and what you want to retain, and whether or not the estuary that you create is actually mitigation for the bulkhead that you don't take out. So it's going to be like you're going to bank with yourself first, and then if you have something left that's possible, you would have some mitigation credits that you would do.
Okay.
There's a lot of elements that go along with mitigation banking as far as getting them approved, having them obligated as mitigation in the long term, and then pricing them and selling them. But there is some possibility that there would be some change left over.
Okay. The last question, I know.
Just a second, we do need to extend the meeting here, so.
I have a motion to extend the meeting, but my motion includes getting through this item number 3, item number 4, punting item number 5, 6, 7, and the rest of the meeting to the next meeting. And once we're done with 3 and 4, we're done with our meeting. And this.
Okay, it's been moved and I'll give the second to Councilmember Mahoney. My only question is, my only objection is, a couple of these things are basically announcements. So, no, I would be in favor of punting item number 5. Tim?
Just real quick, on 3 and 4, we just need to introduce them to the council, so we can do that in about 30 seconds if there was another item that you guys wanted to add on to discuss. So we can do 3 and 4 very quickly.
And we can do 6 and 7 very quickly also.
Then I'll extend 10 minutes past 9 o'clock, but not in a minute more. I'm sorry. You guys have got to start taking these
Okay,
agendas and figuring out how to
Okay.
get them done.
all in I disagree. I think we should go longer, and so.
My motion is to extend to 9:10.
Do I have a second? I'll second that. All in favor? Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Mahoney, all opposed? The rest of us. Do I have another motion? We need to make a motion right now. Councilmember Grace Matsui.
I move that we extend the meeting until 9:20.
Do I have a second? Second, Councilmember Mahoney. All in favor? Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Grace Matsui, Councilmember Mahoney, and myself all opposed. Councilmember Harris abstain, and Councilmember Nutting. So the meeting is now extended to 9:20. Please continue. I think Councilmember Mahoney was in the middle of some questions and you're in the middle of answering.
Thank you, Mayor. As we go further, you'll be evaluating the structures back there. I know some are raised. I think the barbecue area or whatever the covered area is would be below the threshold. You'll be looking into that as you bring us more information. Because I think they go hand in hand with each other.
They do go hand in hand with each other, but they are separate as far as what we're scoped to do and what the grants allow us to look at. So we have a King County Flood Protection Grant specifically for the creek area at the mouth of the creek.
Is there any grants for protection of?
There are. It's there are. There are. Yeah. No, it's a consideration. We'd have to evaluate how to bring that in the project. It's not clear to me how we would do that, but we could look into it.
Yeah, my point was that if you brought it before council, those are the things I think, and I heard it from a couple of my colleagues, we'd want to know in addition to. So if there's a way to figure it out, it'd be great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
With the climate change and the rising of the sea levels, wouldn't the homes that are down on the beach level now be every bit as at risk as the meadow is?
Yes.
So they're gonna, I guess, doesn't that obviate the need to maintain that road access?
Currently, they're still there, so we have to maintain it when that's their only access.
So long as they're viable, we have to maintain the access. Essentially how it works.
I believe so, but.
Yeah, that's correct. And really we're just maintaining just a little piece right there. The rest of the access is up the beach, so our piece is very minimal, but yes, we have to maintain that.
I do like the step idea. I think that's a clever way to get a nice bulkhead in there that creates a lot more public access to the area. So I just want to comment on that idea. Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Councilmember Harris.
Just the bulkhead thing, if I missed it, I apologize, really quick. Is there a taller option, meaning instead of 14, 15 or whatever? How much work would be involved in creating a taller option?
For the meadow?
No, for the bulkhead part. Yeah.
Raising the bulkhead.
I'm just saying, my buddy just called me from Pacific Palisades, and they never thought they'd have so I'm just saying, whatever thing you think the 2100 is gonna be, it might be a foot higher than that. And I'm just asking if there's like a design option that raises the Wasson level a foot.
I see.
And
Again, it's good feedback and something we can look into.
Okay, I'm sorry, thanks it.
That's why we're here, to get input.
So with the input, before I ask, oh, excuse me, any other questions? Okay, so I have a couple, but before I ask those, so the goal tonight is just to get input. Are you going to pick one of these and begin moving forward with one of your options after the input tonight? How's that going to work? How's this going to work?
Yeah, this is the goal, is we currently are in the middle of a design. And we're at the point where we need to get a head nod to keep advancing design. We have.
And you want to know which one?
No, not necessarily which one. We have staff, we have two options we're presenting.
Okay,
They're both part of the same project.
okay,
We're presenting to move forward with both of them. I don't have any alternatives prepared to present other than receiving input on any ideas you may have.
This idea. Okay. Okay.
A quick point of order. The committee asked them to come back with more detailed drawings next month, and we seem to support the preferred alternatives, but I think the pictures will make it a lot easier for the council to get a sense of what this is going on, what is going on, and be supportive. So, yeah, is there any way we could just defer that to February, the February meeting, or do you really need a choice tonight?
No, we can defer that. And would that just stay in committee? Or would
I just think once the council sees the renderings, okay, looking left and right, I think it will be very clear they'll be easier to be supportive.
So we can come back to committee and full council with renderings. Yep.
Okay. Question then, how often does soft armoring need to be maintained and repaired? Like what kind of shoreline management process is involved? If you could fast forward to the actual kind of photo, there we go. So you've got, it looks like the recommendation is to continue some hard armoring in the form of a kind of a jetty, right? That creates this quieter gravel space. Is that true? And then, but further, when you raise the meadow, that's all going to be soft armoring, correct? With wood and landscaping, nothing, there's not going to be any riprap up there?
That's true, yes.
So how often do you need to, after a king tide, do you need to replace logs and do you have to get permits for that? How hard is it to maintain soft armoring over a long time?
Well, sometimes there's adjustments that need to be made after it's done, but the whole intent of having different slopes and having different different slopes will take out the energy, so there will be less energy there. The wood on top of it will take out some of the energy that's at the top.
Okay.
The idea is to make the whole thing more resilient so that it isn't damaged.
Okay.
And so there's mistakes are made or people are misjudge things, and so there might be some repairs. But once the original adjustments are made, it should be basically self-maintaining.
And the road is at 14 feet? So will a road need to be raised to the meadow height in order to be resilient to flooding? Like you're raising the meadow to 14, right?
The trails around there, I would assume everything that's in the meadow would be raised and be water resilient.
And the road there, though?
The road there,
entry
I believe that's already at 15.
Okay, all right.
Remember that look, when you look in your packet, look at the blue picture because that was the king tide. And that was the kind of working as almost a design tide and what the future sea level will be. So if something wasn't inundated on that king tide in 2022, it's less likely to be inundated with the higher sea level with the regular tides.
Okay. So I guess the direction now is you're going to come back on the 13th. If any of us have any questions or would like to see something additional when you bring this back, that's okay to ask for? All good?
Yes.
And you do have another question? Go ahead.
I just have one quick question. Okay, if we raise the meadow to the 14 feet, what does that do with the displacement of the king tide water? Does that mean it's going to go further up the creek and endanger the buildings that we've spent so much to raise them?
I mean, I would, as a flood person, I would never say never, but there's an important technical element about the way the floodplain was calculated here originally that's on the flood insurance rate maps. The flood insurance rate maps are actually have the floodplain for the creek to be about 16. And so any fill that we're going to do is not actually encroaching on the creek, and it's changing what the existing flood maps are. So it might change what is actually happening, but it won't change beyond the risk maps that are already prepared, because you have a really unusually high flood elevation on Des Moines Creek because of an effect that comes from the wave setup across the sound. So in this circumstance, in many other circumstances that wouldn't occur. In this circumstance, the way the floodplain's been calculated for Des Moines Creek, this fill is unlikely to have an adverse effect to it as far as what the risk is already on the creek.
And then one other question is, we have a large sandbar deposit that seems to grow annually out in the middle of the bay, right there. Are we talking about dredging that, or is that still going to continue?
That'll continue to be there, and it'll provide everything that's doing right now. Every mouth of every creek that's along this shoreline of Puget Sound has some sort of delta that's like this. And the longshore currents tend to thaw them out and take them away and so on. The marina does affect that flow, but all that will happen is that it'll continue to move out there. The wave action will continue to work it and continue to move it. Again, there could be a single event that comes out and temporarily changes it, but with some of the other changes that would be going on there, that the whole estuary and the mouth of the creek would actually be more resilient to a change like that.
Thank you.
So I would like, if you have any other questions, I'd encourage you to write them in to the team. And they're going to be coming back on February 13th. Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here all night. You were here for the committee meeting and here for this, so thank you so much. So we'll be giving better head nods or more direction on February 13th. So the next item is our telecom franchise agreement with Easy Fiber and also Ziply Fiber. What we're going to do here is both of these franchise agreements are basically the same. So I'm going to read the opening to the purpose of the agenda items. We'll have received one presentation that will cover both of them, and then we will vote on separate motions at the end of the presentation. So the purpose of these agenda items is for the City Council to conduct a first reading or a telecommunications franchise agreement with these fiber companies for the installment of fiber optic facilities in city right-of-way. Under state law, telecommunication franchise agreements require 2 readings by the City Council. So we have a presentation that will apply to both Assistant City Attorney Matt Hutchins.
Mayor, I'm just going to handle this.
Okay.
We're short on time here. So the franchise agreements, under state law, they need to be introduced to the council, and then the council can't pass them until at least 5 days later. So tonight, we're just introducing the franchise agreements. We've also set them for January 23rd for further consideration and passage. And so tonight, they're being introduced to you. We have very limited time, so that's all that we need to do tonight. And if the council's satisfied with that, we can make the motions or we can just continue.
If you don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and take the motion. So I'm going to give this one to Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
I move to pass draft ordinance number 24-087 to second reading on the next available city council agenda.
Did you, excuse me, second? Okay, there's a first and a second on this motion. Any discussion? Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that a representative of at least one of these companies is, I actually had some questions, but I'm willing to defer them to the second reading. I just wanted to make sure that he would be available again. I'm sorry to have to ask you that. But are you amenable, sir? Yes. I will stay after, and I'll also be here. Sweet.
Yeah, because it was going to be second reading anyway.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I just mindful.
All right.
Thank you.
So 087, any other discussion? Raise of hands, all in favor to pass to a second reading. It's unanimous, thank you. Second motion, Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yes, I move to pass draft ordinance number 24-107 to second reading on the next available city council agenda.
Do I have a second? Second, Councilmember Nutting, discussion. All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0, great. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate that. Look forward to seeing you. I would like to skip item 5 for right now and go straight to item number 6. And we'll maybe just defer to another meeting on that. Item number 6 is a nonprofit summit hosted by the City of Des Moines. The purpose of this item is to introduce the hosting of a nonprofit summit in the City of Des Moines and collect feedback from the council. Don't think we're going to be able to get through the rest of even the things that we have in 5 minutes. So I'd like to take a motion to extend the meeting to 9:30. Somebody make that motion? All right. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz. We have this nonprofit summit to introduce to you. We have a study session to introduce to you. And I guess that's all. Think we can get that done? I don't think we can get it. We don't have to go till 9:30?
9:20 is what.
Yeah, we have 3.5 minutes left. All right. The idea was offered as a way to gather nonprofits in town in one place at the beginning of the year to facilitate information about planned events, assist the city in preparation and connecting with organizations, assist organizations in their planning efforts, and provide opportunities for partnership and events. Provide opportunity for networking of agencies and organizations, and to communicate. Few of us who are active in nonprofits gathered to collaborate and share ideas in regard to us offering to host this, so I wanted to open the floor really quickly to a couple of other council members. Councilmember Grace Matsui, any comments?
Yes, I would say I welcome the opportunity to improve our relationships, meet new folks in the community who are working on nonprofits, discuss how we could collaborate together, possibly even put together a timeline of expected events in 2025. I think it's a great idea. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Oxiger?
Yes, we used to have this as an annual event. We had it at Grace Lutheran Church, and it was an opportunity for various civic groups, nonprofits to come present to the community what they're doing, but also to seek volunteers, seek people to participate. And I think it accrues to our benefit every time we, are able to get people to participate in the community. There's a sense of ownership, and I think it's very important. And so it's one of the things I think would be extremely helpful if we revived. So.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Steinmetz? Thank you. So we put it on this just for a head nod to let everybody know that it was coming up. So if you have any thoughts or ideas or input between now and then, and what's the date?
February 22nd in the morning.
In the morning. And so we'll be making a nice spread and inviting, and if you have any recommendations, we do have a list of nonprofits that we will be inviting. So if you have any thoughts on that, please feel free to submit ideas. We might already have them on a list, but more minds on the project.
Where can we find that list?
Oh.
I'm going to send it out tomorrow in my weekly email.
Okay.
Okay. Good. I'm excited about this. Okay, item number 7 is study session. So it hasn't been on the futures, but we decided to add a study session on January 30th. We're calling it the FIFA study session, and it's for the purpose of priming our council formally. Can you hear? The FIFA World Cup 26 is coming to town. We felt like we need to prime ourselves to understand what is really coming upon our region and our city, and to get us begin thinking about what we can do as a council and a city to prepare for that. And so there will be no packet, no prep, just come and listen. It's casual, bring popcorn, maybe even, please don't wear your pajamas, but bring a pillow or a blanket. We're gonna set up, it's gonna be comfortable, it'll be about 2 hours. It's a combination of 2 webinars that have been delivered to regional stakeholders. And then I want to allow about a 30-minute debriefing time, and we can decide if we want to talk more after that. But the idea is just to get the wheels rolling. And there you go. I think that's about it. Any questions? That's January 30th, same time, same bat station. Okay. So I think we're going to, with an agreement of the council members, to eliminate the rest of the agenda.
Second.
Oh, no, wait, I have a couple announcements. I just need to make a decision to eliminate these items.
Excuse me, are we eliminating them or are we postponing them?
We are eliminating item 8, which is the new agenda items for consideration. We would be eliminating council member reports, and we would be postponing the city logo discussion to maybe the next, January 23rd. And I think that would cover everything with a head nod for agenda adjustment. Okay, and then this concludes our meeting. The next meeting date will be January 23rd, 2025. It will be a regular city council meeting. Please remember to pick up after yourself on your way out. Councilmember Honey, would you like to make the motion? Second? Second, and all in favor? It's unanimous, 6-0. Thank you. Yeah, no worries, no worries. We're all anxious. Thank you.